I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Moore.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara.
Present.
Councilman Iacilli.
Present.
Councilman Powell.
Present.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a statement before we get started about the brush fires that began on March 8th, affecting Center and East Moriches, Eastport, and West Hampton Beach, that they're now fully contained and extinguished. In total, over 400 acres were burned. 2 firefighters were injured and 2 businesses on County Road 31 were damaged, but thankfully no residences were affected. Approximately 600 firefighters and emergency personnel battled the blaze, with 90 plus fire EMT departments, all volunteers who turned out in force to prevent the spread of the fire, coming from all over Long Island and New York City. I want to thank the fire department, all the fire departments, the emergency services and police, as well as, and especially the West Hampton Beach Fire Department, for their coordination, and the elected officials, the state who responded in the crisis swiftly. My deep gratitude to the county executive, Ed Romaine, who is on the scene and provided necessary resources and support for the firefighting effort. And also I would like to thank Governor Hochul for providing air and ground support from the Air National Guard and the New York State Police, and for declaring a state of emergency. Also, the DEC Forest Rangers and emergency management and operations personnel were on the scene coordinating firefighting efforts, and the New York State Department of Transportation provided heavy equipment. Air National Guard helicopters provided bucket drops of water from Wildwood Lake to help douse the flames. But finally, my deepest thanks and gratitude go to the men and women of the town of Southampton, the employees, volunteer firefighters, and EMTs alike who answered the call of distress in our community with speed, courage, and professionalism. Our emergency services and code enforcement department, headed by Ryan Murphy, and the fire marshal's office, headed by John Rankin. Our police department, led by Chief James Kiernan, and our highway department, headed by Superintendent Charles McCardle. All are deserving of the highest praise and accolades that a most grateful community can bestow upon them. By us all working together with a common goal, we successfully averted what could easily have been a regional catastrophe. So my heartfelt thanks to all of them. All right.
Can I just,
Yes.
2 things.
Please.
I just want to add that the 2 firefighters that were injured were treated and released. And I also wanted to thank our work continues, because this was an incident in the town of Southampton. And I do want to reiterate that I did receive word today that, people called our police department and got a plethora of information from them. And our fire marshals are out today. They're working with the affected businesses to make sure they have the documentation that they need so that they can proceed to get their businesses back on track. So.
And I'll just add too that obviously I would love to reiterate all the people that the supervisor thanked. Everybody did an amazing job, and in particular, I want to thank Ryan Murphy as well, and our highway crews, as well as the coordination from the county. I think it was really amazing seeing the county step up in such a big way and take swift action. So I think much praise is deserved to Fire Rescue and Emergency Services Commissioner Rudy Sunderman. So I really want to thank him as well. Thank you.
Yeah, the coordination was remarkable. Everybody kept a calm head and worked together.
That's why we
amazing
live
to
in
see.
a great community, because we all pitched in when we needed it.
Yep.
So we should say thank you to everyone in Southampton town and the county.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
What businesses were affected?
Were they on the?
The businesses that were affected were on Old Riverhead Road in West Hampton Beach. There was, I think, Autogate, a pool company, and East End Hospice had a little bit of damage in their parking lot as well, and they had some smoke damage.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I would like to move now to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting held on February 25th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the communications?
Certainly. We have received the following communications in the office of the town clerk. We have received public notices from the Suffolk County Department of Economic Development and Planning regarding aquaculture lease sites in Peconic and Gardeners Bay, Town of Southold public hearing notice and notice of adoption, Village of North Haven notice of adoption, Village of Southampton zoning board of appeals hearing notice for March 11th, for First Neck Lane, Southampton, Town Land Use Board application, Zoning Board of Appeals hearing notice for Flying Point Road in Watermill. Bid and request for proposals were received on Wednesday, March 5th for bid for on-call services for the transportation of landfill leachate for municipal works. The following report was filed from the Town Comptroller for the February 2025 monthly financial reports. And that concludes the communications for this meeting's agenda.
Thank you. I do have 3 walk-ons. The first is Town Board Resolution ID number 49260 to authorize attendance at New York State YMCA Youth and Government Conference in Albany on March 21st to March 23rd, 2025. The second is Town Board Resolution ID number 49282 for the warrant number 5. And the third is Town Board Resolution ID number 49258, which is a resolution adopting the amendment to Southampton Town Code Chapter 314 entitled Moratorium on Battery Energy Storage Systems by amending Section 314.4 entitled Moratorium Period to extend the moratorium period for an additional 3 months. And I move to accept and add all 3 walk-ons to the agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the first public hearing?
Public hearing number 1, to consider the use of community housing funds for the acquisition of land located at 90 North Sea, Mecox Road, North Sea.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor and Town Board members. Before you today are 4 public hearings that request support from the Community Housing Fund in order to bring much-needed affordable housing to our town. If approved, this funding will support the creation of 25 new units of housing that will remain affordable in perpetuity within the town. Although this is just a drop in the bucket compared to the overall demand, it demonstrates that the newly established Community Housing Fund is fulfilling its purpose to expand access to affordable homes. These projects mark an important step forward for CHF and this board's commitment to creating affordable housing in the town. And we will continue to take those steps forward as the Community Housing Fund Advisory Board is currently working on plans for approximately 209 units of affordable housing, encompassing both single-family homes and rental units. This does not include the housing created through the CHF ADU program or the first-time homebuyers down payment assistance program. To put this in perspective, the town's housing plan lists that only 425 affordable housing units were created in the last 30 years or so. So it is clear that CHF is making significant and meaningful progress in the short time funding has been available. These 4 projects that will be presented to you today show that the Community Housing Fund is delivering on its mission and making strides toward the future of providing more affordable housing opportunities within the town. And with that, I'd like to present the first public hearing. The Community Housing Fund Advisory Board received an application from the Town of Southampton Housing Authority for CHF funding in an amount of up to $1,512,000. This amount represents the cost of land and closing costs associated with the purchase of the property located at 90 North Sea Mecox Road, North Sea. The CHF funding will assist with the land costs that will enable it to be developed into 9 single-family, 1,200 square foot Cape Cod-style modular homes on 4 acres. Each home will consist of 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, and a 2-car garage. Each home will have an independent Fuji IA septic system. And we have plans right here of the homes. The homes will be available for sale to households with a maximum income of 80 to 100% of the area median income. For a family of 4, this is between $124,000 to $156,000 in annual income. The sales price of the homes are anticipated to be between $340,000 to $420,000. A permanent affordable restriction will be placed on the property that will require the homeowners to be income qualified and will restrict the resale of the property so that the units will be affordable in perpetuity. The Housing Authority will retain title to the land and form a homeowners association in order to ensure that the landscaping and septic will be maintained and that garbage and snow will be removed. Curtis Highsmith, the Executive Director of the Housing Authority, is here to address the board with any questions and concerns. And then Joyce Yancey, the Chair of the CHF Advisory Board, is here to give its recommendation to the Town Board. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor and Town Board. First of all, I want to just state for the record that this is a monumental moment. Since 2014, the Housing Authority has been able to develop and build just over 20 single-family homes for first-time homebuyers. This is the first time where we've been able to have a funding partner with the town of Southampton. So the work that you have been doing thus far and the work that you've demonstrated, the willingness and the deliberate effects or attempts to create more affordable units, it's just been absolutely wonderful. On 90 North C. Mecox, we went through several renditions of this and to show and demonstrate how working with the community comes up with a community-supported project which not only enhances the project itself, but also enhances, I believe, the community as well overall. We initially were going to do a subdivision, 4-lot subdivision, which would have enabled us to have 4 either single-family home with accessory apartments or go for some type of variance to get 2 family homes on each lot. With conversations with both the CAC as well as the community, what you see here is what's been demonstrated with that, with the support and with the discussions that we've had. So each home will be ADA compliant. It will have a first floor ADA unit or bedroom, which will allow anyone that has mobility limitations to be able to occupy. Also, laundry will be on first floor, front load. All equipment, meaning stoves and refrigerators and all elements, will be at hand reach so that anyone, again, that is in a wheelchair or has mobility concerns has the ability to live here comfortably. More importantly, and you saw on all of our Habitat homes, it's going to be built on grade. What we don't want is we don't want to build homes and then put ramps up. So the homes are built so that if a person is in a wheelchair or has mobility concerns, they're able to access the house, but from the street or from any purview, it doesn't look like it's a handicap home. So we look at it from a design standpoint, functionality standpoint, and community appeal. If you have any questions for me with regards to the project, most certainly would love to answer any questions you may have.
Hey, Curtis, I think it's a great project. I've been watching you and helping you along the way. And it's east of the canal where we really need it bad. And how many of these projects do you think are east of the canal? Are in the pipe works? In the pipe work?
So we have 2, between this, Sandy Hollow, potentially, the first sale properties. We're looking at approximately 25.
And water.
Very good.
And Watermills would be rental. So we're talking just first time.
Oh, okay.
Ownership.
Home ownership. But if we talk, and with regards to total affordable units, it's quite a few units right now in our pipeline that we were able to accomplish within the next 2 to 3 years.
And McGee.
McGee. We also have Southampton Village. We have McGee. We have Sandy Hollow Part 2. We have the other property that's on North Sea Mecox. We have possibility in Bridgehampton, which we'll talk about later during the year. So there's quite a few opportunities.
People don't realize it takes months and years to get this going.
Years. If someone said once, if you want to get into this business and do affordable housing, have $2 million in the bank and 4 to 5 years of work.
And Curtis, I know me and Bill, by the way, happy birthday to Councilman Pell.
Oh, happy birthday.
Me and Bill were present at some of those North Sea CAC meetings. I see the vice chairperson of the North Sea CAC here today with us. Can you just discuss a little bit about how those community interactions went?
I think they were very positive. The initial presentation came with a lot of questions and concerns. And I think we addressed those concerns and those questions pretty quickly. We consistently asked to be a part of their discussion, be present. We brought plans before them. We spoke both at the hearing as well as behind the scenes to make sure that we were adhering to some of their concerns. But it wasn't just the CAC. I was concerned about the neighbors too. So we knocked on doors. We talked to neighbors that will be mostly impacted by the project itself.
And I just want to say thank you to the North Sea CAC for welcoming Curtis and welcoming this project, because obviously it did come with some questions, but it seems the North Sea community is really open to trying to figure out ways to solve the housing crisis, and this is a very creative way of ensuring home ownership while also ensuring affordability. So thank you.
I tell you, when we started this, my tenure here at the Housing Authority in 2014, it was a different conversation. We couldn't really speak about affordable housing that openly, and community support was very difficult to gain because we had no examples. And I think through the course of work that we've done thus far, we've demonstrated that we are responsive as well as a respected developer, community advocate, and a housing authority for our community overall, not just in North Sea, but Hampton Bays and throughout Southampton.
I think that also credits itself to, doing a mix of home ownership and doing projects that fit in the communities has been a big plus as well. I do have two questions specifically about the project. One is there will be a covenant restriction so that they can't be rented, correct?
Absolutely.
And then the second.
It has to be owner occupied, can't be rented. As a matter of fact, you can't do any improvements or renovations to the building or to even the lot until you get prior approval from the housing authority. We're concerned about these are going to be kind of half-acre lots. And so individuals may have a desire to put up a pool or put something up that would be a permanent fixture. We would have to have pre-approval prior to that, and we definitely don't want to distort the process of being affordable.
Okay, and then my other question is, you had mentioned an HOA to handle maintenance and plowing, and it might be a size constraint thing, but is there any possibility of bringing that roadway in to highway standards so that they can maintain the drainage and the asphalt and the plowing? Because
I would love
it's going to be a big cost.
I would love it, absolutely. I believe that we have requirements. We still have to go to planning on this. So I'm sure with regards to the private road now, how we would have to, or what process we would have to do to dedicate that to a town road, we would definitely be very supportive of that.
Okay, just because I know that's going to be a big cost. We see that a lot with people saying we wish we didn't live on a private road because, repaving asphalt, doing drainage work, it's very expensive. And especially if you're trying to keep these affordable, to have an HOA, do that for repaving costs, you're talking about a substantial HOA payment.
Yes.
I think you're talking about the width and the turnaround radius. Those are two things to really look at.
Absolutely.
But
Fire department.
I just want to emphasize, Curtis, too, with respect to the HOA, the goal of the HOA and how it plays in this this development here is that it's really meant to keep the character of the community, to ensure that nobody's making any types of changes to their homes that would really go outside the community character. It's really a way to keep things the way it's supposed to be.
I think I've repeated this everywhere I've gone. These are my babies. And I drive by them to make sure that the grass is cut, the lawns are maintained.
Airbnb.
People who are supposed to be there are there. So I think that if anything, I said the best reputation or at least comment I received most recently is they were concerned about one of our projects, and they said, but if I know you're involved in it, it's going to be taken care of properly. So that I consider myself very honored that someone had take that consideration.
Thank you for that, because there is community concern about, when affordable housing is brought up, what is it going to look like? Are people there going to, be taking care of their properties? You're really reassuring the community that there is going to be that layer of oversight to ensure that, this is going to be, a nice development for all neighbors.
And maintained and operated in a proper manner.
And that taking the road over by the town, it's Town Law 200, and I know that our highway department's familiar with the, exactly what's required, so you can always reach out to them or my office.
Well, they allow us to name the road, because that's something I would.
Jim, can they name the road?
We get to that when they.
Curtis Highsmith Way.
No, are we talking about a particular name here? Typically, yeah.
We have some ideas, but definitely it would not be Curtis Highsmith Way. Any other questions?
Not at the
No, I
moment.
think it's a good project. You have my support.
Thank you.
Maybe Myron, you name it
Thank
after
you,
Myron.
Curtis. I know
Put it
Joyce Yancey would like to come up and speak.
Okay, good afternoon. I am Joyce Yancey. I'm here today on behalf of the Community Housing Advisory Board. As you're aware and heard today, the town of Southampton Housing Authority is seeking $1.512 million from the Community Housing Fund as reimbursement from the land acquisition costs plus closing costs of 90 North Sea, Mecox Road in North Sea, which it will later develop into 9 single-family, 1,200 square foot, 3-bedroom affordable homes made available for purchase by first-time homebuyers who earn between 80 and 100% of the area median income. The homes will remain affordable in perpetuity by way of the easement that will run with the property. And as you also heard, the town of Southampton Housing Authority will own the underlying land and oversee the entire parcel after the sale of the homes by establishing the homeowners association through which the Housing Authority will provide landscaping, property and septic maintenance, snow removal, and other services to ensure the properties are maintained in accordance with the look and feel of the community at large. The Community Housing Fund Advisory Board voted unanimously to recommend this application to the town board, and one board member recused himself. In voting to support this application, our recommendation was based on the following. The advisory board recognizes the importance of providing financial assistance to alleviate housing cost burdens for residents of the township. We further recognize the importance of supporting much-needed affordable housing for workforce, which this project will. The advisory board also recognizes the importance of pursuing opportunities to expand and preserve affordable housing east of the canal, which this project does. And I just want to add a side note there to your question earlier. Of the 12 projects that we've either committed to or in our pipeline, 9 of those are for housing east of the canal. So it's a high priority for what we review. The advisory board is also comfortable that the appraisal ordered by the town supports the amount requested by the town of Southampton Housing Authority, and the advisory board also supports that the affordable nature of the units to be developed will run in perpetuity as permanent affordable easement on the property. Accordingly, the Community Housing Fund Advisory Board recommends this application to the town board. I appreciate the opportunity to present our recommendation for your consideration. Thank you.
How many bedrooms did you say are upstairs?
How many,
One.
how many bedrooms are
Two.
upstairs?
There's
One
two
is at the
bedrooms
layer and 2 are upstairs.
That's the only cards I have on this. Kevin, is anybody on Zoom to speak at the public hearing? Number one. Anybody on the board have any other questions or comments? If there are no other comments, I move to close this public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice
Maria.
for the
Public hearing number 2, to consider the use of community housing funds for the production of rental housing located at 140 Maple Avenue, Flanders.
The Community Housing Advisory Board received an application from the Town of Southampton Housing Authority for CHF funding of $200,000. This amount represents part of the costs associated with the production of a single-family affordable rental home and accessory apartment at 140 Maple Avenue, Flanders. Suffolk County has funded $225,000 towards the development of this home so that it can be compliant with the terms of the American with Disabilities Act. The goal of the Housing Authority will be to identify individuals with mobility limitations to occupy the home. This project will be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home with a 1-bedroom accessory apartment, and that's pictured here. A permanent affordable restriction will be placed on the property that will require the tenants to be income qualified and will restrict the rents on the property so that the units will be affordable in perpetuity. The Housing Authority will retain title to the property and will be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep. And again, Curtis Highsmith, the Executive Director of the Housing Authority, is here to answer any questions you may have. And Joyce Yancey, the Chair of the CHF Advisory Board, is here to give the Advisory Board's recommendation to the town.
I want to take attention to the design of some of the homes that you'll be seeing this afternoon. We always look into considering the community appeal, ensuring that whatever we build and whatever we develop enhances the overall community. This will be a rental. This will represent the very first rental that we've done, the second rental we've done in Flanders Riverside community. The County of Suffolk, as you've been advised, already funded our $225,000 for mobility impaired or mobility limitation candidates. We'll be looking at various individuals from our waiting list, which have now exceeded well over 2,000 names on our combined waiting list. So we will have no problems leasing up this particular unit. The County of Suffolk and our county executive is looking forward to a groundbreaking and is also requesting that this town board be present at that groundbreaking as well. If you have any questions with regards to the project, I'm here.
Thank you, Curtis. Was this parcel, did this come to you through the 72H?
No.
No?
We acquired this parcel. We purposed this for what we're actually doing right now. Challenges with this particular area is that nothing can be built based on current zoning. So we had to go through a number of different reliefs, ZBA reliefs, in order for us to get to where we are now. Then in the middle of the process, the requirements on septic changed, so we can no longer use the normal traditional septic systems that were in the past. We had to change that process and resubmit. There were just variations of things that happened during the course, so that's where we are now.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've gone through the ZBA process? Is that, when you said nothing could be built, was because of the size of the lot, or?
Setbacks. So because of zoning, based on front yards, and this is actually a corner lot, which made it even more difficult. Yeah. So between front yard and side yard setbacks, the minimum square footage, all of this came into play and made it very difficult for us to come up with a project that didn't require a whole lot of zoning reliefs. If you actually go through the zoning application, you see that it took the guy probably 2.5, 3 minutes to read all the various reliefs, but that's this area. And as a housing authority, every one of these units that we've ever built, I've done the expediting. So again, this has been a very lengthy process to get some of these projects on its way.
But to his point, do you have the approvals now?
Everything, we're permit ready.
Okay.
The lot has actually been cleared. We were the county asked that we clear the lot immediately because we were concerned about the long-eared bat. So there's only a grace period by which you can actually clear the lot. So we had to clear it immediately.
So both the main structure and the accessory apartment over the garage would be subject to the restrictions of the affordability?
Absolutely.
And is that something that, I mean, how is that enforced?
We do all screening. So just like we do with our other income limited projects, whether it be Sandy Hollow, Spionk, Hampton Bays Apartments, and we have 3 rental parcels as well. We do our own personal screening, and we to ensure that there are annual inspections. We have to follow New York State HUD REACT inspections to ensure that the property is properly maintained and managed. We do income requalifications every year to ensure that the candidates in there also qualify.
So the person living in the home won't have any say over who's living in the garage?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Oh,
This question might be for the housing director. Will this also fall under the annual affidavits that you'll be working on with Public Safety Director Murphy?
Yeah, so we do send out affidavits on any current community benefit units to ensure that the people that are residing there, it's still their primary residence. And so, yes, this can become part of that as well. Yep.
I just had one other question, because my mind is still on this. There would be no opportunity, say, for the person who is mobility challenged in the home to have a caregiver living above the garage.
I would say, well, that everything's possible.
Okay.
Remember, there's still a 3-bedroom house, so you have units within the actual house that could house an individual who or
Besides, I
caretaker.
didn't realize it was a 3-bedroom house.
It's a 3-bedroom house. But if for some reason that there's a combination where the person who's a caretaker is income qualified and could occupy the unit, it would be a good marriage to have the two. Most certainly, we will consider that, take that into consideration. My concern always is also the waiting list. We have people that have been waiting. They've been looking for units for some time now. And so we don't want to necessarily circumvent those that have been patiently waiting for some time.
Would they get one of the garage bays, or that's for the
One of the
people
garage
that-
bays is for the unit upstairs, the other one. So we would actually, the portion that actually has egress into the apartment upstairs, that end will be closed off to that section. And the other section, the other garage will be for the house. I'm very high on I think I've mentioned this several times, storage. We just accumulate a lot of stuff. And so we're also going to be taking consideration on possible sheds, because we found even with the Habitat homes, people still need more storage opportunities.
Because these are not, no basements
No
on
basements.
this, right? Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Thank you, Curtis. Joy Cianci.
Okay. Hello again, and I'm here again on behalf of the Community Housing Fund Advisory Board. Since you heard the facts of the project, I'll go right to our recommendation in the interest of time. The Community Housing Fund Advisory Board voted to recommend this application to the town board. Again, one member recused himself. In voting to support the application, our recommendation was based on the importance of providing financial assistance to alleviate the housing cost burdens for the residents of the township. And we also support that the affordable nature of the units to be developed will run in perpetuity as a permanent affordable easement on the property. So, short to the point, the Community Housing Fund Advisory Board recommends this application to the town board. Thanks for the opportunity to present our recommendation. Okay.
Thank you, Joy. All right. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak at the second public hearing? All right, I do have Ray D'Angelo has expressed an interest in coming up. Sure, come on up.
I think I'm still older than you, though.
Only by a few years.
Yeah. I wasn't going to speak on this, but he mentioned that there's a 2,000 member waiting list for these.
I have 2,000 individuals on waiting.
Well, my question is,
Wow.
how is it decided who gets these nice dwellings? What's the determining factor? What is the protocol to determine this? And just to retrace it a little bit, we just experienced this terrible brush fire, which is a very arduous fire to fight. It's very dangerous. You need young men and women. Many of these people do not have the ability to live in our community. I mean, and I always written about this, that I think that they should be given some consideration to be moved up on that list. I mean, these are people that are necessary and very important to our community. And because they're going to volunteer life and limb to do this, they should be given some special consideration. Once you have the county money involved and state money, everybody throughout the whole state, or even I think nationally, has a shot at these things. And I have a problem with that. They're not vected to people that we really need in our community. You know, nurses, ambulance, EMT workers. And I think I'm very troubled by that. I mean, these are people, affordable housing, and we get somebody from Mineola to come here doesn't help us. If we have some 22-year-old firefighter that has a new family, he can't make his down payment. I wanted to have a program where we help with down payments. It seems like we're going this way with developers. And I think these developers look at this, and it's a big pot of gold for them. You know, it's money, for grants. These are very profitable for them to put these things up. And now we're even helping them with more grants. So I'm very troubled by this and everything. And I'm going to urge you to keep these hearings open so we can get more input from the community about this availability to who can live here. Really, this is very important to us. When we sell our houses, the taxes that come from the sale of our houses goes to this fund. So we want to have it so that community members that are vital to us get a crack at this. They should get a special consideration, in my opinion. I mean, they're out there sacrificing their lives. They can, the wind shifts on these fires, and I speak from experience, you can be consumed by it. So, I mean, there should be some consideration made. And in view of what just happened, I can't make a better argument for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carol, can you answer some of that questions, please?
Curtis?
Because we do agree with you.
Yes, I
But
agree with you.
we're, it's our understanding that the law won't allow for us to create a preference in that way, but I wish we could.
So, so,
you agree with a lot of stuff with
so CHF does have to follow federal fair housing regulations. The intention is with all of these homes that there would be a lottery, especially for the 9 units here that we just presented to you. And we do a lot of advertising. We make sure that the community as a whole knows about this, but specifically, we make sure that any of our volunteer EMS, fire, ambulance, they all know about the lottery and signing up for the lottery and how the process takes place.
And just because it was mentioned, Kara, about down payment assistance, we do have a down payment assistance program, right?
Yes, we do. Yeah, we have a pretty robust.
Dedicated 1.25 million last year.
Yes.
And we're considering maybe doing an additional allocation, but we have how many? I think 4
So
current
we have
applicants?
4 current applicants for the down payment assistance program that we just started really getting off the ground in about November, December. So the way the down payment assistance program works is anybody who's a first-time home buyer who qualifies under the income limitations and the housing cost limitations, which are pretty high because they follow Sony May rules. I think it's now up to $1.6 million for a home and about $206,000 for 3 or more family members. So you go out, you can find your own home, and the town CHF down payment assistance program will contribute most of the down payment required, up to 3% of the cost of the home towards that.
Kara, it was mentioned, I agree with Ray and his sentiment as well, that we have many first responders and volunteers who really would benefit from having first dibs at some of these housing opportunities. Did Councilman Tommy John Scavone examine that? I believe that when I first came into office, there were several meetings that I had with him and yourself where we were looking at that possibility. Whatever happened with those discussions?
So we were concerned about, to make sure that we follow the federal fair housing rules with regard to preferences and things like that. But certainly we'll make sure that our community, our first responders, knows about the lottery. We will, make sure that they understand it. I just want to point out, though, that just to go back to the first-time homebuyers down payment assistance, we're getting ready now to close on the first person that will receive that, and that's somebody from the air base. That's a mechanic at the air base, and will receive that down payment assistance.
Very good.
But I do want to bring up the fact that I know that when we were going out to the community and we were asking them to support CHF, there was a point made that because this was local funding, we could prioritize for local residents, such as our first responders. And I know that we pitched that to people that way. And so now we're finding out that it's Not that way.
We will make sure that all of our local residents will know about any affordable housing opportunities that come up. In fact, we've found through all of our studies that the majority of people who are awarded these homes are residents, they either are residents currently, they were residents at one time and had to leave because they couldn't afford to live here, or they have employment within the township. It's a high percentage rate. It's about 94% of the people who are awarded these affordable housing opportunities are one of those people.
Could you also point out, so people understand on these houses what are being sold to the people, and also the rental units, they have to stay affordable housing for life, and where some units don't, like there's a project west of the canal, which is granted by different types of money, which does it. Can you explain the difference between that?
Right. So under our funding, the CHF funding, we are committed to funding units that will remain affordable in perpetuity. There was a time past, about 30 years ago, where the town didn't have the mechanism in place to ensure that homes would be affordable in perpetuity. And some of those homes were lost. A good many of those homes that I mentioned when I first came up here, the 425 units, a good number of those had been lost because there was no mechanism in place to make sure that they remain affordable in perpetuity. We've corrected that. On all of these homes, we place a buyer benefit mortgage on the homes. It's a soft second mortgage that ensures it's really a mortgage that's the difference between the purchase price and what the home appraises for, which can be significant in some cases, about $1 million in some cases. And that ensures that that person who receives that home can't go out and sell it on the open market. There are certain restrictions in there that has to remain their home, their primary residence. They can't rent it. And then we do allow these people to earn equity in their homes because it is important. People buy a home. It is probably their biggest investment in their lifetime. So we do allow them to earn equity. We just make sure that that equity is in such an amount that it won't prevent it from being resold at an affordable price. So we take the number that they purchased the house at on the date that they purchased it, we put it into a CPI calculator, and we come up with a sales
You mean
price.
say resold at market rate?
Right.
Not right, so that we're ensuring that it's being sold at an affordable rate, not at market rate, so they make a profit.
Correct.
Based
Yes.
on what Kara's mentioned, the CPI,
Yeah, and that's how we do it, through the CPI calculator. So we do allow people to earn a profit on their investment, but we restrict it in such an amount that it allows the home to be resold at an affordable
And
price.
I would just like Curtis to have the opportunity to just address the his work with developers, if you don't mind. I just in particular the question specifically about like who gets the projects. There is a RFQ process, right?
So, anyone that thinks that people who develop affordable housing become rich or wealthy from doing it doesn't understand the process itself. Whether it's New York State tax credit deals, whether it's getting funding from the county or the state, first the margins are extremely slim because it's the cost in construction in comparison to what the market would allow. Our margins are extremely slim. We're also limited in terms of how much income or revenue or profit we can make or earn on each one of these projects. Usually it maxes out under 20%. It averages about 12 to 15% on the project. So no one's getting rich developing affordable housing projects, which is the reason why there aren't so many affordable housing developers. I want to comment on the preference question, because I wholeheartly agree with we need locals to get and have the opportunity to be awarded some of these homes. Set aside some, put aside some of them for our locals. I get the phone calls every single day, multiple times a day. I get stopped at the supermarket and walking down just the road itself. I got approached 2 times here in the building talking about, can you find me a place? There's such a need for our locals, our first responders, but also our supermarket, our staff here in Town Hall. We all need affordable, reasonably priced housing here in the East End. This is the issue with the preference scenario. It's allowed, but this is what the fair housing law states. In order for you to have a preference, you have to ensure that the nature, or whoever preference you set aside, you will not infringe upon anyone of a protective class. So if you have a preference for fire or EMT or medical emergency personnel, you have to ensure that the demographic of that staff or that those individuals will not at all impede or hold off or limit anyone from a protective class. If it does, it has the potential of violating fair housing law, and you sustain the town itself to a possible lawsuit or some type of restriction from the state for funding. They get funding for CDBG, for other means. It will put the town into jeopardy of losing that funding. But not only that, it also will, it could possibly have a lawsuit from an agency like Long Island Housing Services or Erase Racism, where they have a particular lawsuit for that infringement and will cost the town millions of dollars. That's the issue with the preference. So I'm not saying that you can't, that when things like this happen, you send it to New York State, they typically say no, because there's an impossibility for you really to do pretty much a analysis of every individual to be impacted by this to ensure that a person of a protective class wouldn't be infringed upon. So that's why they say no. It's just not worth the possible lawsuit or the loss of revenue for the state. We normally typically have either an RFQ or we take a number of bids from different developers. These projects will be modular. So it's a little bit different. They're not site built, they're not A-frame, they're modular. So about 80 to 90% of the building or the construction is done off site, and then it's shipped over here. So we would normally have to get 4 or 5 different quotes from a modular company, what it would cost for them to install, bring over, ship, develop, and bring it over to our site. And that's how we make our decision process. So I hope that.
To the point of preference, though, and I understand what Ray is talking about. We have looked at developments where 50% of the units had a preference for veterans. Mm-hmm. I mean, our first responders are a very diverse class of people. So I don't see why
veterans or seniors are one of those two. It's funny. Veterans, seniors, and art colony are 3 of the preferences that are sometimes allowed by New York State standards.
Because, I mean, I would love to see, of, say, the 9 units in North Sea, at least 1 or 2 have a preference for first responders.
We're getting state funding. I doubt that they'll allow that, but I can probably do veteran. But they will not allow us to do a local preference. And again, it goes back to putting the town in jeopardy.
I just thought when we did CHF and if things were wholly funded by CHF, we could have a local preference.
Well, CHF is still public funding. It's still public funds. It's not private funds.
But it's funded by the town.
Through public funds.
The concern is you want the pool of applicants to be appropriately diverse, right? So you're not continuing, if there is an area of a town, and not to point out a town up island, but there was town of Oyster Bay had this issue in there. I think they're still mired in a Fair Housing Act one because the town was, essentially 99% of a certain race, and so, with the preferences, the concern was that it was continuing. If the residents that were living in that town had a preference, it was continuing that disparate.
Yes.
So
now let's go to the actual numbers, because we've had a number of lotteries now. We've had Sandy Hollow, we've had Spionk, we've done it in Hampton Bays. We've had a number of different opportunities to see what is the demographic of individuals that are applying for these lotteries. No one is applying from Nassau County. There's no reason for a person to apply from Nassau County. it's cheaper for them to go to a Brookhaven or to a Riverhead or someplace further out west than for them to move out to the Hamptons just to say they live in the Hamptons. Believe it or not, I know it sounds kind of foreign for us. We're in Southampton, but $400,000 isn't affordable for most people. So when I'm looking at individuals or candidates, it's Southampton. I always say Southampton affordable. In regions like in Riverhead and further out west, those are usually like 200,000, never eclipsing or going higher than $300,000 in terms of purchase price. So it really, truly, it just doesn't happen. When we have our lotteries, our numbers are well above. 80% of them are usually over 80 to 85% are individuals that live and or work in the town of Southampton.
In this town,
The majority of those that are from 15% are people who've had to move out because it was unaffordable to be here. You don't ever find anyone that doesn't have employment, relationship, history, or family that would decide to take an application to move out here in East Hampton. We're foreign in terms of our limitations on our position, being at the end of the island. Most of work and employment is out west. Most of the individuals that live out west, they either are there because they couldn't afford to stay out east, or there's no opportunity, and they were priced out of the market here in the East End. So it just doesn't happen by just nature of where we're located.
Curtis, tell us what the distinction is when you mention a lottery and then you said there's a waiting list.
We have a number of we have 4 waiting lists from, and what we did is we have obviously our Section 8 waiting list, which we run on behalf of the town of Southampton. We have an attainable housing waiting list, and we have waiting lists that have accumulated based on lotteries we've had in past times. We're looking at if we.
So you mean the people on the waiting list were the ones that were in the lottery that
Correct.
weren't picked, but they were numbered, that you came in 5th, 6th, 7th?
Correct. So each one, we're forced, and you were here for the Hampton Bays Lottery, where we had 200 applicants for 2 homes.
It's heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. And you read the names. And by the way, just for the record, the 2 people that were selected lived in Hampton Bays. They were originally from Hampton Bays. They reside in Hampton Bays. They stayed in Hampton Bays. That was a positive impact to the community of Hampton Bays. But going down the list, and you're literally picking up 200 names. And out of that lottery in Hampton Bays, 90% of the people were from Riverhead out east.
No, we were looking at the faces in the audience were most of our employees.
Most of your employees.
But you don't have to put them back into a lottery. Is that what's happening?
For a rental, you don't. For one single rental, you don't have to. If this board would rather us do a lottery for the selection process, again, for the main home, I'm looking for someone who's mobility impaired. So that typically would be off of our waiting list, individual that's on our waiting list, and we would take that based on the category or number that they're located, and we'll make that selection process. If you feel that it would be fair that we do a lottery, we will, but we still will need to be able to find a person that has mobility impairment. That's based on the county grant. We had to get the county grant because of funding. That was the only grant we had around. We initially came in for funding through the Community Housing Fund for the entire construction. So the only available funding that we had was that from Suffolk County.
that was on this specific project.
On that,
Here, your number 2.
yes.
And I think to
Any
answer
other questions
Councilman
for-
Pell's concern, working with a not-for-profit helps keep a property in perpetuity affordable.
Also, it also, you have to take into consideration where the grants come from.
Correct.
If the grants come from, the federal government, and there's one project where it's not perpetuity to life, it's only for 50 years.
Well, you're talking tax credits. So that's New York State 9% tax award. They normally have what's called a regulatory period. They can be 15, 20, 30. For Sandy Hollow, ours is 50. And we decided to do that. But on our project, we took it into zoning. So the actual zoning on the property was zoned for affordable housing. So that was the PDD for Sandy Hollow. And then the zoning changed in MF44, which in the language of the law required it to be affordable in perpetuity.
So that locks it in there for life.
It locks it in there for
But
life.
other projects, only locks it in for so many years.
And we would do CNRs on this as well. So we'll have covenant restrictions on each one of these lots that, God forbid, something happens to me. I'm not going to say I'm going to always be here, but the next person,
Curtis, are all the projects that you've worked on so far affordable in perpetuity?
absolutely everyone, 100% of it.
That's very important
Yes,
for the town.
I think it's necessary.
And the neighborhood.
Yeah, it's the benefit of
Know
working
it's
with
gonna
a,
be.
it's the benefit of working with a not-for-profit.
Yep.
Keep it, that's.
Well, I'm going to add one more layer, a local not-for-profit,
Well, yeah, sure.
because there are some not-for-profits that are absentee landlords.
Those you have to be careful.
Those are the ones you have to be
Thank you.
careful of.
Curtis. Ray, you did speak already, but you just didn't use all your
directed his
3
comments
minutes.
to me, and I want equal time. Again, this is a classic bait and switch. When she's right, Cindy McNamara is right. I remember when this campaign won. People told me what's great. Oh, my kids can't live here. He's a fireman. Now all of a sudden, there's protective class. There's a lottery. These people are out there fighting a fire. What about a lottery with their lives? They should be given consideration. This is the way this thing was sold. Now, it's incumbent on you to live up to the way it was sold, and it's not being lived up to the way it was sold. And she knows that. All of you know that. I don't know if you want to go, well, Rick Martel was here. He knew about it. He's running for council now, but when he was on the board originally, he knew about this. And this is not what's going on. You know, these people deserve, we want to make sure they're notified, and they're going in a lottery. Great shakes. They're notified, and they got a chance, one chance in 2,000 to get it. It's absurd. It really is. It's a classic bait and switch, and it's a disgraceful situation. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't fill out a card. I didn't know I would speak on this. I just have 2 questions. My name's Lorraine Pacelio. I live at 23 Nash Avenue in Flanders. And I just wanted to know why this one is a purchase in North Sea and this one is a rental in Flanders. And I'd also like to know why they are income-based only and not asset-based as well. Is there any kind of limitation on those assets? I don't know if anybody can answer those questions. Thank you.
So, Housing Authority has built 12 single-family homes in Flanders. This is the second rental that we have. We need a mixture of both. Every house that we do, every project that we do can't be home ownership because there's still a number of individuals, affordable individuals, that need to be able to rent as well. We have a workforce that right now may not qualify for home ownership, interest rates being what they are, limitations on assets. Secondly, assets are a part of the income base. So we look at a combination of both. We take a percentage of, if a person decides or sells their home, first of all, they sell a home, they're not first-time home buyer, they don't qualify. But if they have a large asset base, meaning they have a large investment, a percentage of that is included or added into for purposes of qualifying or screening an applicant. So it's not that we don't take in consideration assets. Income and assets are taken into consideration.
Thank you.
Okay. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom for this public hearing?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, then I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the 3rd public hearing?
Public hearing number 3, to consider the use of community housing funds for the acquisition of land located at 205 North Sea, Cox Road, North Sea.
The Community Housing Fund Advisory Board received an application from the Town of Southampton Housing Authority for CHF funding in the amount of up to $1.75 million. This amount represents the cost of the land and some closing costs associated with the purchase of the land located at 205 North Sea, Cox Road, North Sea. The CHF funding will assist with the land costs that will enable it to be developed into 4 single-family, 1,200 square foot ranch-style homes. Each home will consist of 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, and a 2-car garage. Each home will have an independent Fuji IA septic system. The homes will be available for sale to households with a maximum income of 80% to 100% of area median income. For a family of 4, this is between $124,000 to $156,000 in annual income. The sales price of these homes are anticipated to be $380,000. A permanent affordable restriction will be placed on the property that will require the homeowners to be income qualified and will restrict the resale of the property so that the units are affordable in perpetuity. The Housing Authority will retain title to the underlying land in the form of a homeowners association in order to ensure that the landscaping and septic will be maintained and that garbage and snow will be removed. Again, Curtis Highsmith, the Executive Director of the Housing Authority, is here to address the board, and the CHF Advisory Board Chairperson, Joyce Yancey, is here as well.
So we consider this phase 2 to 90 North C. Mecox, but we decided to change the actual design of the house rather than the 2-story cape. We decided to make this same square footage, 1,200 square foot, but a ranch. Reason for that is this is a corner lot of a big, busy highway, busy area, corner of North C. Mecox as well as Major's Path. So we wanted a 1-story view so that there wouldn't be any obstruction, it wouldn't be any blind spots, it would be more condensed, but also because of the exposure, these 4 homes, it would play better or greater into that community. And as for overall design itself, obviously it masks and complies with current architecture in that community and area. We will have are considering also putting sheds in the rear, entertainment area, patio. This will be ADA compliant as well. And if you haven't noticed, pretty much everything we build, we try to make it ADA compliant so that we never have to retrofit a house to make it ADA compliant. So we'll have a kitchen, open concept, bedroom, which will allow for ADA or wheelchair accessibility, a laundry on the first floor, pantry, all the amenities that are necessary for an individual to live comfortably. This will have partial basement, so it'll be a basement, will be conditioned space for the mechanicals and also storage. Any questions?
I just wanted to make sure that this was, you also, Curtis, I believe Councilman Pell can attest to this as well. You worked with the North Sea CAC on this? I know
Yes.
the vice chair of the North Sea CAC is here.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, when this property became available, and I want to thank Councilman Bill Pell, who also very supportive of moving on and came with me to the CAC to discuss this particular project. We advised the board itself our interest in the project. We never want to go forward with anything without at least seeing if there's community interest. We knew the impact that 90 North C. Mecox would have. Adding another property, let's make sure that it would be overwhelming to the community overall. So after discussions with the community, the consensus was if it's home ownership, because people felt like they took better pride in the home if they owned it rather than rented it. Either way, it's going to have oversight by me. So both.
We also have the rental units at Sandy Hollow right up the road too.
Right down the road, yes. So it was very supportive. They liked the design for the most part, but that's hearsay. They can speak for themselves if they have any comments. But so far, everyone seemed to be very supportive of the project overall. Any other questions?
So these have the basements though?
It would have partial basement mostly for storage and for. We did the same thing over. We built a modular home in a Farrell community. Farrell was required to give us one of his lots. We built a home, and to make sure that we had proper storage, we built a partial basement. We had conditioned space for the mechanicals, create shelving so the individuals could put their stuff away. What I don't like, and I don't like it in my house, and I wouldn't like it in anyone else's. When summer's over and winter happens, let's not keep the bicycles and stuff on the lawn. Let's put them away where they properly belong.
But we're not able to do the same with some of the other properties?
We are. Yes, we are. We are able to.
Oh, because I think the prior ones, you said they didn't have basements.
On the 90 North C. Mecox?
No.
You're talking about the modular?
The modulars.
Well, those are the rental. That's a rental. My concern is someone trying to do something inappropriate in the basement.
I see.
So that's, you're talking about Maple.
Okay.
The home ownership, people should have their own storage, independent storage area.
And you have to go in and out by the exit, by the outside. There's no from the house down to the basement.
It'll be a bulk door. These also will be by lottery, open lottery for individuals. We will definitely promote, advertise. We'll be in here picking names, and we would do it in conjunction with 90 North C Mecox. So both parcels will be available.
And Curtis, your advertising, you'll be working with Kara as well, so that a lot of that goes through our housing department, and
Absolutely.
we can, make sure anybody signed up with our town housing website will be notified. And okay, thank you.
Just like we did for Hampton Bays, we make it available on the town's website, on our website.
Great.
We have to show and demonstrate that we're properly advertising, so we're in the press pretty much 4 weeks straight to make sure individuals have access to it.
So the two in North Sea, the funding we are being asked for today is just for the land?
Acquisition.
And then you are coming back for housing money?
Well, I was blessed enough to have representatives from New York State and from Suffolk County come out and do a caravan of all the sites, all of our proposed projects in our pipeline. And they are setting aside quite a bit of funding for us to do these projects. They recognize the limitations we've had over time in order to get these things up and running. And so we're looking at quite a bit of funding for all of these projects. Hopefully I won't need to. But remember,
I
we
would love
also
to see them come with some sort of a match to what we're putting. I mean, there were substantial amounts of money on these projects.
But also remember that we're getting revenue from the sale. So it's proceeds from the sale as well as grant funding. We should have sufficient enough to qualify. It would be like a shortfall, very, very minimum. And then we're applying for the community CPF for the septic.
So, I'm sorry to belabor
No,
the
please.
basement point, but did you say that 90
They do
will
have basements.
Oh, okay.
Yes, they do.
All right. I get it. Thank you.
Yes, just Maple does not.
All right. Understood.
Actually,
All right, well,
I have a question for Kara, actually.
okay. Thank you, Curtis.
Thank
Don't
you.
go
Thank you,
anywhere.
So Kara, to that point, when these applications come in for the housing, for the land costs, do the applications also have the grander scale of the cost of the project and where the funding for the overall project is coming from?
Yes, yeah, and so all of that is on the application that is submitted to the CHF Advisory Board, so that the applicant shows what funds they need. So usually it's the land costs. The most expensive part of the project is usually the cost of land. And with CHF being able to contribute to the cost of land, in these particular cases, all 4 of these projects, the Housing Authority has secured funding from other resources, whether that be New York State, the county, to be able to construct the units or pay for, these are all modulars, so to be able to pay for the cost of the modulars that will be placed on the properties.
Thank you.
Oh, I have some cards first, so at the end, you can come on up. All right. Joy Cianci.
Okay, thanks. Again, I'm here on behalf of the Community Housing Fund Advisory Board. We voted to recommend this application to the town board. One member voted against it, and one board member recused himself. In voting to support the application, our recommendation was based on the following. We recognize the importance of providing financial assistance to alleviate the housing cost burdens for residents of the township. We recognize the importance of pursuing opportunities to expand and preserve affordable housing east of the canal, which this project does. The advisory board is comfortable that the appraisal ordered by the town supports the acquisition price requested by the Housing Authority. And we also support the fact that the affordable nature of the units to be developed will run in perpetuity as a permanent affordable easement on the property. Accordingly, we recommend this project to the town board. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Joy.
Thank you, Joy. All right, Chris Cole.
Good afternoon. Chris Cole, 565 Majors Path in North Sea. I just want to say that I'm in support of community housing and affordable housing in the town. People my age and younger have a difficult time purchasing properties in the town. I did want to bring up, it does seem that a lot of the housing is concentrated in this one area with Sandy Hollow Road, 90 North Sea Mecox, and North Sea Mecox. The 2-acre parcel at 205 North Sea Mecox is a heavily wooded lot with mature oak trees. So I would just like to just state that if that is to be developed, that it be done in a way taking in the site conditions into consideration. If there's a possible way to design the lots and homes to save mature large trees, and that the community housing developments should be in line with the town's community action climate action plan to sequester carbon and keep native plants on site. I also ask that the use of invasive vegetation as part of the landscaping, if a homeowners association is to be created, that they don't use invasive vegetation on site, keep the native vegetation that's there, and try to be as sustainable with these properties as possible.
Actually,
Thank you.
we talked about that all in, when we talked about this project, that to place the houses around some of the trees, no invasive species, no bamboo, nothing like that, to make it
Great.
to make it like it was there for a long time. to fit the
Great.
neighborhood.
Thank you.
Curtis, we were doing a cluster plan here, right?
Yes, yes. So we're definitely going to do a cluster plan. It will be designed almost like it's a 4-lot subdivision, so everyone can personalize and parcelize their own area. We'll screen. Same thing we're doing in 90 North C. Mecox, whether it be fencing or some type of way to not restrict but create independent zones for the individual homes. That's what we're looking to do. So we want everyone to be able to have their own independence on their own portion of segment or portion of the site itself. In terms of vegetation, everything's going to stay. If anything, we're bringing more on. I'm concerned just about the corner lot, being in a corner lot. I don't want trees so high that I create blind spots. I travel this road a lot too, and I'm always creeping around to make sure. So I just want to make sure that it's also sensitive to traffic that comes through in that area.
Even though you're the housing authority, you're still going through the full planning board subdivision process.
I think people think that we
Secret
get
process.
special privileges, and unfortunately, I have to do the same pre-development that everyone else has to do. Zoning, I have to go through the same process. Health department, I have to go through the same process. So nothing gets side or removed from my process like any other for-profit developer. I have to do the same work.
And I think we looked at this with both ways, and I think when we were originally looking at this with the cluster, I think we were also looking at a set aside of some of that land right on the roadway on the corner to kind of give us some room for that intersection should we need to adjust things. But it's something we can, planning will obviously look at when we go through this.
My question had to do with, I know that they were doing a road plan in that area for the sidewalks, and I didn't know if something was going to be part of that section that we would have to create.
No, I think we were just looking at it because that intersection is already kind of offset and odd, so we were looking at potentially just preserving some of that property for the use of, if we needed to adjust that intersection, we would have that property.
You also take consideration topography.
Yes.
That varies over there. I walked a lot the other day, and there's a huge drop off. So, once we determine what the need is, what we have to bring in fill, we have our engineers taking a look at that to see what's going to be required. And I'm sure planning is also going to require that.
Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you.
Kate Rummel, and after Kate, Ray D'Angelo.
Hi, Kate Rummel. Thank you to everyone for working to address the housing crisis within the town. I'm in support of the project, but just to echo some of the other sentiments, there are several very large native oak trees on the property, some are which are more in the center, which are likely over 100 years old. So if possible, I would like them to be, encourage the town to preserve them to the max extent possible, which worries me if you're bringing in fill for the topography, as it could compact the soils and whatnot. But I know that the site is definitely a difficult one to work with. And I also just want to echo the sentiment that no invasive species be used on this property and other housing development properties, because there are some that do have invasive species like privet and whatnot. So I think we just need to marry creating affordable housing, but also protecting our fragile ecosystem. And I also just wanted to ask how the property is going to be accessed, because it is a rather dangerous intersection, and it is, one that causes a lot of concern. So I just didn't know if they'd be from North Sea or from Major's Path, or both, or sorry.
Thank you. You have to switch places.
Oh,
Curtis.
sorry.
We have not, we're working on a concept plan right now for two reasons. One, location of septic, obviously the site limitations as well. We haven't determined where the egress is going to be. It's going to probably be a combination of North Sea Mecox and Major's Path, but we haven't determined what that looks like as of yet. But before we leave, I'll make sure that you have our number. Be a part of the conversation. People over in the North Sea Mecox area, other neighbors, they've asked me time to time what's happening, what's going on, and I've been able to give them, even when we had concept plans, well, what do you think? I want you to be part of the process, and I think that anyone and every person I've spoken to, whether it be in the North Sea community or even Hampton Bays, I'm willing to share information because you helped me make a better project. And we want to make sure it's something you're going to drive by every single day. It's part of what your community is going to be. I'd rather you be part of the conversation as well.
Right. And it will be in front of the planning board, and they'll have a public hearing in the planning board, and there'll be a traffic analysis, and all that will be, back and forth with the planning board and Curtis and his group.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just have one other question. And will planning address like stormwater, because that intersection,
Yes.
okay. Fantastic, great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kate. Ray D'Angelo and then Gail Lombardi.
Okay.
I just have a quick question. I'm Carol Chicago. If I understood it correctly, the town is going to continue to own the land, and it will be maintained, that's wrong?
Yes, the housing authority,
The housing authority,
Yeah.
not the town.
not the town.
Who?
The housing authority.
Of the town.
No, they're not, they're
Do you
a
want to,
not-for-profit.
do you want to, Kara?
Well, do you want to finish your question?
Yeah,
And then
so
we
my
can answer.
question is, so, and what would be sold would be the house, but the grounds, common area and the ground underneath the house will always be maintained by the housing authority.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is this, that's not so easy to say, well, you can sell the house, but we own the land, because the landowner, which would be the housing authority, is always responsible for what goes on the property, including the house, because the house is on the land that the housing authority owns. So who's going to pay for liability insurance for fire, car accidents, property damage? Who's going to pay the insurance, which there will need to be for the land, because the town is liable, or the housing authority, part of the town? They're always going to be liable for whatever goes on this property. So it seems to me that the people who are proposing building this aren't giving us any numbers about what that's going to cost. That could be a huge yearly bill to insure this. And if you say in perpetuity, that means forever. So who's going to pay the insurance? They said, oh, we'll be maintained by like a homeowners association to assure that the grass gets cut, etc. Who's going to pay for all that? Who's going to pay for the liability insurance? Who's going to pay if there's some major land problem, if all the houses and all the trees burn down? Who's going to pay for all that? The town. It seems the town. Am I wrong?
Curtis will answer that for
Yeah,
you.
why don't you have a seat? It's not the town, but he'll explain it.
Okay, I have one other question. If these are the proposed pictures, are these real houses? Okay, all of these houses look to me like that they were over cleared. I'm just saying.
It's a rendering.
Well, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Thank you.
To answer, to respond to the first statement, the housing authority is not a part of the town. We are a separate entity. We are separate from the town. We would like to say an agent for the town. However, we have our own separate separate audits, our own separate P&L, our own separate operations. We are independent from the town. With regards to the insurance on the property, just like a mobile home park, a condo, or a co-op, or any other residential development that allows for home ownership, where the land is owned by a corporation or an entity, that's the same makeup that we would have. So we'd either have to do this as a PUD, a co-op, or we would establish a land bank, and we would be able to sell the improvement, which is the building itself, for the individuals. And that there's a specialized document, it's not a deed, specialized document that's filed in the county as in terms of home ownership. So you do have home ownership, you do own the property, you're able to write off obviously your mortgage insurance, you have all the privileges and the advantages of owning real property. The difference is that we would own the land. So we would have insurance on the land, we would have insurance on the actual property. The owner of the home would have insurance on their improvement, what they own.
And where does the money come from that you would use?
Homeowners Association fees.
From the homeowners association.
This is not a new concept, right? This is every trailer park operates in this fashion. The trailer park owns the underlying land. The trailers are owned by the owners. Mobile home park, excuse me. And they're free to sell their mobile home at any time. They never sell the land because the land stays in ownership with the.
We create a pro forma for each one of these projects that we own. In that pro forma would be basically the cost of operations. That's your insurance, taxes, maintenance fees. All those things are added into the overall operation costs. And based on that budget, that's how we pay. So yes, and I will say this, insurance is getting expensive. I mean, our insurance coverages both on Sandy Hollow, Spionk, Hampton Bays Apartments, our rental units, they've increased beyond. We're trying to work with our current legislators to try to put some type of limitations on that because they've increased substantially. But we would maintain insurance, so any accidents, any incidences that happen on our parcel will be the responsibility of the housing authority. Within the building or the structure itself, be the responsibility of the homeowner.
Like any other condominium or townhouse community.
Co-op, and we're looking at even possible co-op opportunity, which I actually prefer a little bit more. We're not there where we're talking about the actual operations of it, but a co-op, and we'll go into details when we start establishing what the operation procedures would be. But it gives me more standard, and that's one of those procedures where I can actually write in their preferences, because you're owner of a corporation and not of real property. So that may be a possibility through a co-op. I'll be able to do qualifications based on preferences. We're still testing to see if that's a possibility.
And I know that I had a conversation with Peter Elkowitz recently, the president of Long Island Housing Partnership.
They're doing it in Huntington.
Right, and they said that all the projects he's doing moving forward are all these community land trusts, so it maintains the affordability and perpetuity, and they have much better control over the properties moving forward. And
because the co-op is written into a corporation, into an incorporation that you own into a business, so your ownership is really a business, your entity or interest in the business. You can write in the bylaws of that business certain parameters. That means occupancy, resident conduct, all of those things can be written into the bylaws.
Thank you.
Lombardi. Oh. Okay, just thanks, Michael. I'm going to keep forgetting.
Myron Holtz, resident of North Sea. I'm also a retired deputy commissioner from New York State Division of Housing and Community Rule, where I was the deputy commissioner for housing operations. And my wife, who is a member of the town of Southampton Housing Authority, that's why I, as a member of the Community Housing Fund Advisory Board, I abstain from voting on anything, so there would be no potential conflict of interest.
Wondering who was abstaining from all the votes.
That was me, for that purpose. But
know.
I do want to clarify one thing about housing authorities and how they're created. They are created by an act of the state legislature. There's something called the New York State Public Housing Law, which permits municipalities, cities, towns, and villages to create housing authorities to act as an agent for that municipality, rather than having the town and the municipal departments in the town responsible for maintaining and operating these housing developments. The public housing law authorizes the municipality to apply to the legislature and request that they create the Town of Southampton Housing Authority, the City of Binghamton, the Village of this or that. And there are hundreds of housing authorities throughout the state that are independent of the entity, the municipality, that asked that they be created. They're separately financed. They have their own funding source. They have their own auditing, and they are monitored by the controller of the state of New York as a separate independent municipal entity. So they are not owned by the town, but the town appoints the members to the board so that the town has an opportunity to determine how a housing authority operates. And I think that's a necessary clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Myron. All right, now Gail, thank you for your patience.
I don't know, I'm afraid to move these mics down.
I know, who knows what
You don't have to. They're all new and they're sensitive
Yeah,
and
we heard a raised pen clicking. So I'm glad Myron got up and explained that, because I am from a background in the City of Housing Authority myself. I actually invested in these funds at the work I did. And to be honest with you, these conversations between my experience as an auditor and my experience that I was involved in an area development fund when we used to invest, my group invested $7 million into these housing funds with different developers. A lot of red flags just went off. And what's going on with our community housing funds used as leverage now to get state and city money, state and county money. I don't remember that being part of the mission of the community housing fund. I thought the community housing fund was actually supposed to help our local development in and of itself, and that's how the money was supposed to be used. As Ray said, it got sold to us as it was going to help our local people. And in town of Southampton, laws are broken all the time. Well, how about laws get changed? If the fact is that the community housing preservation law allows it to be open to anybody in the state, anybody in the county, anybody in the United States, then that's your job now to change that law, because that's what we've sold. And if the fact that now we're using it as seed money, which is mind-boggling to me, to leverage other funding, and now that opens it up to all of these other people able to, then why are we using the seed money? The fact that we've been asked to the table now, I mean, I guess maybe, the one woman that talked in Flanders, it is very disingenuous to have a Flanders with all these zoning board of appeals approvals, putting 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag, 3 units in Flanders with already a very dense, lower income area, and then having the nice units out in North Sea. Very concerning. And the next thing is the secret review. There is no guarantee there's going to be any secret review on these. They're going to, they're going to claim that there does need to be secret review. And there's those three developments. I'm not familiar with the area that they're talking North Sea, but if there's 3 developments, are you going to look at it cumulative, again, planning department, or are they going to look at it individually? So I have to tell you, I was sitting back there, and that's why I came here for the specific one for Hampton Bays. But from my years of experience and how we did this, and they are, contrary to Mr. Highsmith, who's incredibly enthusiastic, and we should be all thankful to have somebody like him in our community, they are very profitable. We had a 7-year return on investment in our area development fund. We got our money back. We got tax credits. We got the tax deductions. We made our money back. I couldn't keep it was a revolving loan, so I had to keep revolving it and invest in other projects. We got it through LISC. We got it through the Consortium of Affordable Housing. I don't know how it's done here. It was 20 years ago. But these projects really do need to be looked at, not just from all this fabulous affordable housing that I know we're trying to do, but really the financial aspects. What are we really getting into? Who's really paying for it? What strings does it come with? And are we really accomplishing what we set out to do, was to provide affordable housing to our teachers and our firefighters and all the people that can't afford to live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Jim, it's a federal fair housing law, right? It's not our law that says we can't do a preference. It's the federal law.
Sure, yeah, it's absolutely, and it's the federal law, and there's a case law that emanates from.
And it was always the law, even if.
Sure, right,
that
right,
wasn't
right, and
made.
and we can look closer on this, but I think one of one of the things that we may benefit here in this town, in the town of Southampton, is that we do have a bit more diversity, at least, than some of the other towns that have had the issues, have run into it, in town of Oyster Bay and some of the other towns up west. We are blessed with some diversity here in this town, and so that might help us create, stay within the rules and the laws and the Fair Housing Act.
I can't say that I know this for 100% certainty, but I am aware that in the county legislature, there is a bill that's being drafted that looks at trying to identify housing for specifically first responders. I think legislator Rebecca Sanin is looking at that, but there is pushback on it, primarily because of the potential legal implications that are associated. And so that, the county legislature is looking at this now too. They're looking at this issue of whether or not municipalities can do this, without having any sort of significant ramifications.
Like I said, and the cases look at essentially that if an area, if the pool of applicants, it was happened in the town, I was mentioned before, the town of Oyster Bay, where it was, one race was pretty much dominating 99%. So are you continuing, by putting those preferences, are you continuing that disparity? In this town, we can argue that maybe not, because we do have a little more disparity than diversity.
But I want to kind of go back to just in reference to a comment that was made.
Excuse me. Could
In
you
reference
please take
to
your conversation outside for now?
In reference to a comment that was made, one of the things that was brought up was that it wasn't understood that CHF would also be encumbered with other funding, i.e. county funding, state funding, what have you. But there's nothing in the CHF law that negates that potential.
Not to my knowledge. And I think the whole idea is to be able to use the money and have that flexibility. As you mentioned, Mr. Councilman, you mentioned about the down payment program. Kara's been working very, very hard to try to apply these funds to all different types of opportunities, and that's what we're trying to do.
Is not CPF funding sometimes encumbered with certain other types of state funding for water quality improvement, county water quality improvement?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we are encumbering within the CPF law. There is encumbered funds.
In my experience back when I was in the county, I used, when I was doing the acquisitions with the CPF with Mary Wilson back in those days, we leveraged it. Mary used to try to leverage the CPF funds to work with the county to have county funds involved as well.
I think it's an important thing to mention as part of how the town is to approach some of these issues. If they are to make some progress on affordable housing or preservation, there are efforts that the town cannot fund alone. In fact, Kara, I don't know if you want to come up here and talk about, I know that we reviewed this recently, how much money is in our CHF currently? And with these projects, what is sort of the limitations if we continue on? We have to also be conscious of what we're bringing in through the CHF program.
Yeah, so remember, CHF is taking in only 0.5%, in contrast to CPF, which is taking in 2% on the sale of on properties. So our fund is achieving much less than CPF. So in 2024, CHF accumulated about $20 million. We've used some of those funds, and we have about $14 million left. But with all of these projects that I mentioned earlier today, that we have about 209 units that we're looking at, we're actually short about $2 million when we add everything up. So, to build affordable housing is very, very expensive. And that's why, if we want to offer a lot of it to our community, a good number of it,
or even just these projects.
Even just these projects, we have to be able to bundle it with other funding. To be able to $20 million won't get us very far if we're only using CHF funds.
Well, which is why I asked Curtis the question, because, we're putting up $2.7 million to own the underlying land, for the Housing Authority to own the underlying land. And if you're adding the cost of the housing to that also, it's a big lift, and it's no longer, we're not really doing it at an affordable rate anymore.
That's correct. Yeah, it would bring the cost of those homes out of that range. You know, we talked about some of these homes today, somewhere between like the 380,000 range to 420,000. We would never be able to offer that if CHF was going to fund the whole thing, because it just costs so much money. The land is expensive, the building supplies are expensive. We have to be able to bundle this with other funds to be able to do, you know, create or bring to the mission of providing more affordable housing to the
And to Councilman Isley's point, we have done similar with CPF where, you know, the town has bought development rights on something and Peconic Land Trust will come in and own the underlying fee to make it, you know, a more reasonable acquisition for the town. So, and then they also manage it and they have farmers that come in and
They've
use the
actually raised
land.
money from surrounding neighbors who are interested too.
So we've done partnerships, you know, we've always looked to leverage, you know, public monies with private monies with other public sources, because it's a more economically feasible way to do projects of this size.
And you're saving taxpayer money.
So, and I just also want to point out that, you know, working with the Town Housing Authority, I mean, you've seen some examples today. The Housing Authority is concerned about, you know, the trees on that property. They are concerned about, you know, what the community wants. You know, sometimes when you work with private developers, maybe not so much. So it is important to have that kind of partnership with the Housing Authority. They were created for this purpose, and working with them, you know.
It's a great point to mention, and I don't want to belabor the conversation, but I think that's a really important part of this, because I know Curtis has taken a lot of time working with you, Kara, and also working with this board to decipher what is the best way to talk with the public on some of these initiatives. And Curtis has spent a lot of time speaking with a lot of community members, and I want to actually thank you for that, because, you know, the public loses a lot of trust when developers aren't in touch with the community and they're just doing whatever they want to do because it's the cost of doing business. You really take the time to listen to people, and I really appreciate that, and I know that my colleagues here appreciate that.
And we also, I mean, we pulled some of these projects to get more community input and held off on them until we had that input, so.
And the reverse is true, because Karen's working very closely with Curtis too, so that's helpful.
Yeah.
That your department is working very closely with Curtis's housing authority. You know, you have that symmetry.
Which it should be,
Yeah,
you know,
of
I mean,
course,
that's why the Housing Authority was created by the town of Southampton, you know, so.
Thanks.
You represent the town, not the authority.
Correct,
But
right, absolutely.
We're seeing the product of the relationship between the two of you, which is great.
Hopefully 25 new units.
Yeah, thank you. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom that would like to speak at this third public hearing? All right, well, if there's no other comments for this public hearing, I would like to, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the public notice for the fourth public hearing?
Public hearing number 4, to consider the use of community housing funds for the acquisition of 645 East Montauk Highway, Shinnecock Hills, for the creation of new affordable senior housing units.
The Community Housing Advisory Board received an application from the Town of Southampton Housing Authority for CHF funding in the amount of up to $2.7 million, plus costs. This will allow the Housing Authority to purchase the Easterner Motel, located at 645 West Montauk Highway in Shinnecock Hills. The Housing Authority intends to demolish the existing motel units and develop the property into 10 600-square-foot, one-bedroom detached cottage-style rental units for seniors. The project includes the rehabilitation of an existing home on the property for an on-site property manager who will be responsible for the daily operation. We have a site plan here and a rendering of the cottages here. The homes will be available for rent to senior households with a maximum income of 50% of the area median income. This is between $54,000 and $62,000 in annual income. The Housing Authority will develop this as a HUD Section 202 project that will allow the rent charged to be affordable for the senior occupants. HUD will subsidize the difference between what the senior tenant can afford and the actual operating costs of the housing. The Housing Authority will place a permanent affordable restriction on the property that will.
What was that last sentence?
HUD will subsidize the difference between what the senior tenant can afford and what the actual operating costs are of the housing. The Housing Authority will place a permanent affordable restriction on the property that will require the tenants to be income qualified and will restrict the rents that the units are, the rents of the units to be affordable in perpetuity. The Housing Authority will be responsible for landscaping and septic maintenance and garbage and snow removal. It is my understanding that this project is time sensitive, so you do have an authorizing resolution before you today. Curtis Highsmith is here to answer any questions, and Joyce Yancey, the chair of the CHF Advisory Board, to give the recommendation of the CHF.
Hello again. As discussed, the plan for this particular project, again, a example of community involvement, community input. Initially, this project was going to be a workforce housing project. We were kind of given a verbal acceptance by the state to do a hotel motel conversion, but after conversations, discussions, both with the town and with the community, but also with the need for senior housing. We have a senior housing community in Hampton Bays, 37 units. We have 150 people on that waiting list. Remember, they're 62 and older, so the likelihood of that 150 individuals ever becoming number one, as you go further down the list, is less likely. So we do need senior housing. Kara mentioned that we were filing what's called a HUD Section 202. It allows us to go senior project-based housing, which is a form of a Section 8. It helps subsidize the rental units for the seniors that will be occupied. They have to be 62 and older. Therefore, there's an age restriction on these particular units. Each one would be ADA compliant from entry to the occupancy itself. We would do all screening just like we do at Hampton Bays Apartments, where there's an annual screening, there's an annual REAC inspection to make sure the units are properly managed and maintained. We are going to be installing, decommissioning the septic and upgrading the septic system so that we would have an updated septic on site as well. Each unit would be 600 square foot modular, which would be obviously created or built off-site, brought over to our community. They'll also keep costs as low as possible. We're working with a few agencies with regards to solar, and we want to make these homes kind of passive homes, where there will be heat pumps and solar to occupy in the individual unit. So if you have any questions, I'm here to respond or answer any questions you may have.
Curtis, this is the former site of the Easterner?
The Eastern.
And can you just briefly discuss, I know you had a lot of conversations with our board when this was originally proposed as workforce housing. We talked a lot about the need. We've been receiving a lot of inquiries about senior housing. You also had conversations with the Hampton Bays Civic on this?
I spoke with the Hampton Bays Civic and I spoke with the Hampton Bays Alliance on a number of occasions to update them on the progress and obviously the evolution of the project overall. I showed them a copy of the cottage-style home that we're looking to do and establish, and gave a little idea with regards to the operation of the facility. The property obviously be maintained by the Housing Authority. We'll be doing we would be hiring our own person to do monitoring. He or she would be representing Hampton Bays as well as this particular facility.
And how was the community feedback on that?
When the community, and I'll have them speak for themselves if they have any questions, they seemed very supportive, specifically that it was senior housing. There were some concerns about the impact of school that this particular project could have. Also, there was some concerns about what we would be doing in terms of operation of the project. But there were more concerns based on what I've received in terms of responses. They're more concerned about some other agency coming in or some other for-profit developer coming in, overdeveloping or mismanaging the facility, continually operating it in a manner that was not within town code or allowable. And so they were more concerned about that, the dangers behind that. Looking at the buildings, it is better that we knock them down. There's nothing feasible. We would put, we were willing to do the modifications that were necessary, but quite frankly, it still would have been a difficult project overall. And so this new construction makes more sense. It makes the site look that much better, I think, from a visual standpoint, especially considering now that we're going to be occupying the lot. We'll be able to have a egress into the lot in one-way throughway surrounding the community overall, and the septic at the center of the cul-de-sac.
Guys, I think this is a better project than when you first came in with this, and we went around and around, because I was not for the first project.
Yes.
And then when we came up with this idea, I think it's a home run.
When I say I get phone calls, I get just as many phone calls from seniors that are looking either to downsize. They now become widow or widowers, and they're living alone. They want to reduce not only their space, but also their costs, their carrying costs, or their expenses. So we do have a lot of seniors that are looking for senior housing. Again, we have well over 150 on our waiting list right now that are already that qualify under this program. She said income qualify. So HUD pays for anything greater than 30% of the person's income. That means if Social Security, pension, whatever their revenue is, but they have to fall within the income requirements. HUD determines what the payment standard is, so we would have to follow HUD's guidelines in terms of rent.
Just to Councilman Pell's point, I think the original plan, our biggest concern was the size of the units, and this addresses it.
It's going to be couples or
300.
kids
Yeah.
in a small unit.
Yes. Yes, I think there were 350 square feet. There's one that was, right now it's 7 studios at 350 square feet. There's one bedroom at 600 and two bedroom cottages. So we're doing all 1-bedroom units.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Joy, would you like to come up and speak?
Okay. I'm here to represent the Community Housing Fund Advisory Board. We unanimously recommend this application to the board, and I note our one board member, again, was recused. For the following reasons we support. The importance of providing financial assistance to alleviate the housing cost burden for residents of the township is top of mind, but we're very in favor of the senior housing, which is a high need for this community. We also recognize the importance of pursuing opportunities to expand and preserve affordable housing east of the canal, which this is. The advisory board is comfortable that the appraisal ordered by the town supports the acquisition price requested by the housing authority. And we also support that the affordable nature of the units will be developed to run in perpetuity as permanent affordable easement on the property. So accordingly, we recommend the application of the town board, and I appreciate the opportunity to present.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Gail Lombardi.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to go back to the comments I did make. My issue is the fact that when the community housing program was sold to us, it was that we were going to have home rule control. That money was going to be used. So now, again, I go back to using it as seed money and getting other money that may have other strings attached to it. I understand leveraging money. I did it for a living. But that is not what I'm talking about. It has other strings attached. And right now, what I'm hearing is the blurry lines between the town and the housing authority. And it's starting to really bother me. I didn't focus to that. I'm looking forward to seeing the housing authority financial statements. I don't know where they're posted, but I'll make sure I get a copy of those. Because my understanding is it's time sensitive is because on Zillow, it's already listed in contract. So who entered into the contract? Obviously not you. It's the housing authority for $2.9 million of a white elephant that couldn't be sold. And so now where do we now in? The town is in the bailing out people who enter into contracts. You brought the other bill, it's taking it off the town. I'm not opposed to that house. Let me backtrack. One, I'm speaking on my own behalf. Number two, I'm not opposed to affordable subsidized senior housing. I think there's a need for it, and I think the town should be involved in it. So putting that aside, I'm talking about a process. Someone entered into a contract to buy this property. I guess originally for affordable housing. Now all of a sudden, maybe not the best thing, so now we got to do senior housing. We got to pivot. It's already in contract, just like the Bel Air. There's a resolution already on the town gen, just like the Bel Air. When Jay went in, signed the contract for the Bel Air, and Jim represented, oh, we got to get this purchased. So it is very frustrating to be standing here and kind of feeling like I'm in J-land. Also having a public hearing. Why have a public hearing if you already decided you're going to buy the contract property?
Well, I believe that the contract that the housing authority entered into was subject to getting financing so that they could have walked away. And when he presented it to the board, we said we weren't in favor of the plan, and then he made some adjustments and spoke with the community and came back and said, if it's senior, are you in favor of it?
Well, we're having our meeting in March. Civic Association doesn't have their meeting to March, so the only last one that was presented was in January, and Cindy McNamara was there, and we were talking. I don't want to speak on behalf of the Civic. I'm speaking on my own behalf, but as somebody that attends the Civic Association meetings, the last presentation we were made. So that is in the Hampton Bay School District. And so again, based on my past experience, based on secret reviews, things are cumulative, right? It's not like, same thing like you do auditing. You look at the big events, you look at the big transactions, and they're standalone. They have an adverse effect to the financial statements. You look at cumulative effect of a lot of little transactions. This particular project, again, I'm for the project. Let me be clear. I'm not for the fact that the town is taking this ad hoc, like, let's buy anything somebody has available and let's spend $2.9 million on it, just like the building next to the Japanese restaurant. So the cumulative effect of all these properties that you're buying in Hampton Bays shifts the burden from, commercial properties onto the residential properties. And at some point, the cumulative effect has an adverse effect. And that's the point. And I don't think you guys, you're new and you're doing the best you can and you're really trying very hard. And I want to, again, reiterate that. The four of you are fabulous. But the sins of the past come back if we don't recognize the sins of the past. And so right now we're in a situation, we had the Bel Air. Many of us wanted to keep that as a hotel. I only started to say that it should be CPF because I didn't trust the town to actually develop it and make it beneficial to Hampton Bays. We had the other motel that was on West East Tiana, next to the Liners, that turned into a homeless shelter and eventually bought that CPF because you couldn't manage it. So we're in a situation where in Hampton Bays, you keep taking commercial properties off the tax rolls and shifting the burden onto the residential property owners. And this is another example. So I have to say, in the scheme of things, affordable housing for the seniors is a nice thing. I have to say, as somebody that's visually impaired and can't drive, it is a little isolating. I don't know if there's a bus stop over there, because how is somebody going to go out and get a container of milk? At least in Bishop Ryan, at the HUD, in that little development on the other side of the track, somebody could walk to one of the bodegas or one of the delis and get a container of milk. Over there, I don't know if there's a bus stop there. They're going to have to depend on SCAD or something else. But you didn't give us an opportunity to actually talk about the senior housing in the community. And I don't know how many people are actually at the Alliance meeting on Wednesday. But that being said, personally, I think it's a good project. I really am opposed to the process you guys are following, to the way you're dealing with buying buildings in Hampton Bays, commercial property. You're disrupting the commercial property, willing buyer and seller.
4 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry. And also, this process that you have a public hearing when you kind of already have the resolution because it's time sensitive. Thank you for your time.
So I just want to address some of that before you get up, Curtis. And we did bring this to the community. I was actually at the civic meeting when we discussed this project. And it came back to the board, and what I heard at that meeting was that the community was more in support of the housing authority overseeing this project than a private developer making it, efficiency apartments and having no control over who goes in there, over how the property is maintained and looks. And that's overwhelming what I heard from the community, and that was that they trusted the housing authority to oversee this project more so than a private developer, that it was going to go in there and have year-round efficiency apartments. There was concerns about the school, and there was concern because some of them were 2-bedroom units. So people did feel that there would be school-age children from this there. This then came to the board, and you heard from Councilman Pell and even myself, we were not in favor of going forward with this project because we felt the units were so undersized. We did not feel comfortable putting people in those units as year-round residences. I mean, they were probably fine as motel rooms, but to have people living in those spaces, and we saw the pictures of the efficiency kitchens, and it was just so tight that we said, you know what, the way it is, we don't want to have anything to do with this project. We brought Curtis back to say, what else can we do with this site? Because overall, I felt the community did want the housing authority in charge of this versus a private developer with efficiency apartments.
And senior housing.
And that's when the conversation about having standalone senior units instead of these conjoined efficiency apartments came into play. And when we saw the renderings and knew that we could get, and Curtis had a commitment already to get funding for the rehab of the units, that he could then put these new units on and not have to worry about new windows and electric and bringing everything up to code and doing the septic and coming to, it became a much more feasible project that we all could support at that point. But at that point, we had exhausted our time on the contracts, and rather than lose out on the property, that's why we're at where we're at today, because we took the time to go back to Curtis and say, how do we make this project better? Because we're not happy with what you're proposing to put in the community as it sits. So I hope I didn't speak out of turn for all of you, but that's pretty much where we were at with this. If Curtis, if you want to speak to that.
I think we know by now that I tried my best not to operate in the vacuum, and to communicate with the community as best we possibly can, especially when there were changes. When we decided to make the change to do senior, I came back and I had a conversation and met with Ray and with Adam. Met with Ray and met with Adam, went over the program, went over the rendering and what we were proposed. We were planning to come back before the CAC to advise, but I spoke to your chair in efforts to have them come back and report to the CAC to make sure everyone was civic, to make sure that everyone was in the know. I didn't want anyone to be this is to be operated in a vacuum, or anyone to be surprised by the change. And quite frankly, I thought the change was a delightful one that everyone would be in support of, because it answered to pretty much everyone's concern. The size of the units, the safety, the actual condition of the facility, even the look of the Eastern was just, people felt it was kind of blighted. So, and then we're doing senior, and we have such a tremendous need for senior housing in Southampton, like we do for workforce housing and youth, young adults and first-time homebuyers and rental. We have a need for all of it. So this was a check to every box. And as for the contract, we entered into before we even entered into a contract, I had conversations with individuals with regards to this being a potential opportunity for us to repurpose pre-existing infrastructure. Meaning not going up, and the first thing we want to do is we want to take vacant lands and build up brand new structures. A way for us to look through the entire community, see hotel, motel, resorts, repurpose them for affordable housing, and not introducing new density in communities. That was my initial plan. I thought that actually was a great plan. It's changed since then, but I think this is a better plan because it allows us the opportunity to make sure it's energy efficient, it's compliant, it's easily fitted for individuals to reside there. But again, we didn't enter into a contract until first there was a consensus that individuals were happy with us proceeding with acquiring this lot. The contract is subject to, meaning if I don't get funding, we don't move forward. That's it. There's no, we're not acquiring it. We're not moving any further. If we don't get the funding for the project, then we just go on to the next project. But I think this is a waste of an opportunity to do so. So I don't want you to think that we're trying to pull a wool over your eyes. It's that we had a contingency to go forward with this project. We had a specific timeline in order for us to get this done. And in order for us to get it done, we have to fund this pretty quickly. If you have an issue with that, if you want to meet me after this hearing or this proceedings to go over it more in detail, most certainly I would love to. I don't want us to lose the opportunity for the misunderstanding of formality, meaning the process, because it was never meant to be done, and I'm telling you, it was never done behind closed doors and in absence of you being aware of what's happening during the process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray D'Angelo.
Okay, Ray D'Angelo, Hampton Bays. I did meet with Curtis, with Adam, and I do support this project. I think the need for senior housing is really underestimated. I am very active in the senior center, and they fret. A lot of the seniors now, they retired when they were 62, 65, and now 20 years later, they're in good health. They're in the 80s. And, between the taxes, the insurance, they're really being pressured. So really, it's very, very needed, and I do support this project. My only concern with the project is the tax bill on the property now is $9,000, and it's being sold for $2.7 million. Am I correct with that? What's the purchase price? 2.7. So how does a property now going fair market value is 2.7 and the taxes are only $9,000, and going forward, because this is in our school district and it does contribute to the biggest tax costs, what's going to happen with that $9,000? Is it going to go up, or who's going to be responsible for continuing the $9,000? I'm sure Curtis wants to reduce that, but I want to increase it. I mean, we need the funds. And that's one of the things that we're being pressured on is the tax increases in Hampton Bays. We have a big enrollment in our school district. So that is one of my main concerns. And I do like the buildings that are going up. I do like the concept. I know people that would love to go there that, they make, some of these people, they have Social Security and a little pension. They make about $36,000. And it's very needed. And sometimes we get myopic because, there's a lot of wealth, even in Hampton Bays, the Village of Southampton, Quogue, Village of Quogue, Sag Harbor. We're talking about people that are very, very wealthy, but we do have people that are really just hanging on. And it is needed, and I applaud the board for trying to give the money for this project. But on the other side, I am concerned about the continued revenue from the property. We need that money. We need it goes to our school district. So no one's really explained that to me. And I understand Curtis's interest in getting that down because, he has to keep the rent down. And if it's a high, the taxes are high or pilots are high, he's going to have a problem doing that. So my question is, would the town come in and make up the difference with a pilot? Will they give us more money because now we're losing it? Would the community housing fund give a pilot on this because we're not getting the money out of the property that we used to get out of it? These are questions that have to be answered. I mean, the other thing on this is they keep throwing this around the house, the HOAs, homeowners associations. And the problem with that is from properties that I've been looking at in Florida and everything, these things are through the roof because the insurance costs and everything else. What happens with that? Doesn't that start affecting the rents these people have to pay? How's that going to be handled? So there are a lot of questions. That's all we want. We want these questions to be looked at and explored in the light of day and with transparency, and that's what we're getting at. Other than that, though, I do like the appearance of the structure. Very nice. I showed it to some of the ladies. I don't want to sound sexist, but unfortunately, the men don't last as long, so we're overloaded with ladies. I showed all the ladies. I play cards with this. They all love it and everything. So it is getting an approval of the seniors. So I do support the project, and Curtis did meet with us and everything, what he said. But I do have concerns about the tax implications. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you, Ray. All right, is there any? Okay, next time, try to remember to fill out a card so we can have a record. Come on up, though. Just state, when you get to the podium, then state your name.
Carol McCardle, Hampton Bays. I have a question about HUD's involvement. if I understood it correctly, and maybe I misunderstood, HUD, I think you said that HUD is going to pay the difference between what the tenant can afford and the fair market value or whatever the full rent is. So HUD is going to actually pay part of the rent? Is that okay? So what happens? I'm sure you've had some experience with HUD. What if HUD says, well, we're going to stop, or we're not going to pay any more rent if the rent needs to go up? Or in this climate with the president pulling back money, what if HUD stops paying? And you know, HUD does stop paying, as you know. The tenant calls HUD, the window is broken, you have a problem, HUD doesn't want to send the check. What if HUD stops giving their share of the rent?
All right, please direct your questions to the board.
Oh,
And
I'm
then
sorry.
whenever you're finished, we'll
So that's the issue I see. What if HUD, because this plan so far doesn't have any guarantees, contractual or otherwise, from HUD. So how do we know HUD is going to continue to pay, and how much?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Curtis or Kara, do you want to?
So, when I mentioned that the actual program is Section 202, we have what's called a HAP contract, which is a contract that is the same contract we have for Hampton-based apartments. It is considered, or if you ever want to do more research, just type in project-based housing. Project-based housing there's two forms of Section 8. There's one form of Section 8 where individuals get vouchers and they're able to go anywhere they want, pretty much in the country, believe it or not. We actually had vouchers. We run the Section 8 program on behalf of the town of Southampton. We actually had vouchers at one point in Hawaii. So Florida and other regions of the United States. But that's one portion of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. The other portion is called Project Base, where the actual units have the voucher. Means when you leave, or if you were to no longer occupy that unit, the voucher stays on the unit. The next applicant or the next person comes on, they now have to be screened for residing in that unit. That's the type of housing we're talking about here, specific for senior. So in terms of HUD not paying, we have a contract. It's a HAP contract, which we every year they give us our allotment based on what we're requesting in terms of overall rent. So our number of units has a annualized contract to report. We do a screening on each one of the individual candidates or applicants. Based on their income, they get a determination on what their portion of the rent payment would be, and anything greater than 30% of that HUD pays for and comes directly to the housing authority. So those are the two references by which we're paid. We have a contract. It is, and our records are public. We have to, by the nature of our organization, we are still a quasi-government entity. Not only are our financials posted, but also our audits. So anyone that ever wants to review our financials, they can either foil us or they can go on our website and get a copy of them where we post everything. We have nothing to hide. We're not a wealthy organization, but we're definitely doing okay for ourselves. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom for this fourth public hearing? Okay. All right, then, if no one has any other questions, I'll move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the fifth public hearing?
Public hearing number 5, to change target areas of various CPF parcels to Village and Hamlet Green, Parks, Recreation, and Open Space, and amend the CPF Management Stewardship Plan to include the properties under the correct designation.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor, Town Council members. Jackie Fenlon here, CPF Director for the Town of Southampton. So these are some house cleaning matters that we have encountered. We are ramping up to adopt an amended stewardship plan later this year. So in going through our data and the criteria, these are properties for public hearing number 5, where we found that they were purchased under wetlands target preservation, although they are now functioning more as small passive parks. So we thought it more appropriate to change the category and designation into the Village Hamlet Green to give a little bit more public access rather than, just wetlands that are being left alone. for preservation purposes. So the properties,
Not wetlands.
they contain wetlands, but they have like trails and some parking amenities and structures that have been restored. So I'll point to them, but they're just back here.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, these are them right here. So the two that we're looking at, one is known as Spilka Park. So that was in honor of Andrea Spilka, who was a community advocate for the town and in Eastport, like Spionk-Remsenburg area especially. So that it has a small parking area and a trail that gets you to the water. So we just thought it was more appropriate to designate that as Village Hamlet Green for park purposes. And then the second one is a newly completed restoration project, as well as a walkway and viewing platform and small trail, which we kind of refer to as Birdie. But it's formerly known as Reeves Bay Catwalk. So I would also, welcome the board. We'd like to do a ribbon cutting there. It's on Flanders Road. It's I think it's 1194 Flanders Road. So we're going to do a ribbon cutting ceremony probably later in the spring when the weather's a little bit nicer. But that way we would like to also change that designation. So these properties were originally designated on the priority plan as wetland targets area, so they were purchased under that designation. But this is, again, has a parking area, a small restored barn, and a pathway and that walkway out to the water. So it's more appropriate as a Village Hamlet Green designation.
That makes sense. Just housekeeping.
Yes, correct.
All right, well, I don't have any cards on this one. Does anyone on the board have any questions? Kevin, is anyone on Zoom? For this public hearing? Hey, Kevin?
Kevin, are you there?
Is there anyone on Zoom for the 5th public hearing?
No one on Zoom, sir.
Thank you. All right, well then I move to close this public
Second.
hearing. All in favor? Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the 6th public hearing?
Public hearing number 6, to change target areas of various CPF parcels to wetlands target area and amend the CPF management stewardship plan to include the properties under the correct designation.
Good afternoon. Again, Jackie Fenlon for Town of Southampton Community Preservation Department, Director of CPF. This is, again, another house cleaning matter where we were looking at these properties, and again, they were originally listed as agricultural priority properties. But due to the configuration of development or preservation in the area, we do find that it's better to designate these under actual wetlands preservation target area. Because these properties are no longer able to be farmed contiguously with previous like swaths of farmland. So these are now individual properties that do have wetland implications. So this area is more appropriate to change these 3 properties from agricultural lands preservation target area to wetlands preservation target area. And I will point to them for you. So these are 3 acquisitions. One I was involved with, which is known as the held properties. So this was previously agriculture and agricultural to the east, but now that residential development has occurred to the east, this no longer is contiguous to farming practices. So this is also on Shorts Pond, right by the Atlantic Golf Course on Scuttle Hill Road. So this would be more appropriate for passive wetland preservation. The other one is also the estate of Esna and Yates. So this was a property that was purchased in 2023. This was also previously farmland, but again, due to the development configuration and surrounding areas, it's more appropriate as wetlands. And then the last one is actually a conservation easement, but it was a conservation easement purchased in association with farming. So this is actually more appropriate for wetland preservation as well. So those are the 3 properties before you today. And again, house cleaning so that we can properly designate them for our stewardship and management plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Okay, makes sense. All right, again, I don't have any cards for this public hearing, unless anybody has any comments. Is there anyone on Zoom, Kevin, who would like to speak at this 6th public hearing?
No one on Zoom.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions for Jackie? No. All right, then I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for bringing those to our attention.
You're welcome.
And Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the 7th public hearing?
Public hearing number 7, consider the acquisition of 670 Middle Line Highway in the hamlet of Bridgehampton, New York, and amend the CPF Management Stewardship Plan to include the property.
Good afternoon again. So again, Jackie Fenlon, CPF Director for the Town of Southampton. So this is a property located at, as Sunday Town Clerk noted, 670 Middle Line Highway. It is owned by 670 Middle Line Highway LLC. The purported owners of approximately 7.5 acres of land in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Note Number 900-30-1-4.1. So 670 Middle Line Highway LLC has expressed an interest in selling the property for $2,650,000. So this is designated in the open space greenbelt target area and trails in the eastern GEIS Great Swamp area. So the intent here for preservation would be open space with the acquisition also serving possible trail connection goals due to close proximity to existing town trails. So I will also point to that property over here.
Where's the town trails that you were referencing? Oh, okay, then this,
Great.
perfect.
So I would have liked to talk while I was pointing, but Middle Line Highway is just to the north, and then it's a north-south trail connection that's existing and being used today. So this also gives opportunities to kind of reroute those trails. But it's a very nice established trail system that you can tell is currently being used. So this would also allow for some possible connections in the future.
All right, I don't have any cards on this one. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom for the 7th public hearing? Thank you. All right, well, then if no one on the board has any concerns, then,
A hand.
oh, I'm sorry, Lorraine?
Lorraine Facilio, 23 Nash Avenue, Flanders. I just wonder, well, how do you designate or how do you decide what property is going to be purchased by CPF and what by the housing community? Because this is up in Bridgehampton, east of the canal. Why not housing up there? I don't know what the difference would be. How do you decide that?
So, I mean, it's very case specific, but we've already looked at this. This actually only has the residential density for one house. So looking at this one, the preservation goals kind of outweighed. But Kara Back and I actually work very closely together. So if I ever receive an application or an inquiry that I think is more suited for residential or affordable housing, I usually send it her way. And then obviously the town board is sometimes presented and also sometimes suggests that things are better. But in this location with the aquifer recharge, existing, forested, non-disturbed property and only yielding one residential house, this would be more appropriate based upon zoning to be preserved.
And Jackie, I think it's also important to mention in that they're both the Community Housing Fund and the CPF have independent advisory boards that also assess these properties and make their recommendations accordingly. And as per some of these parcels contain environmentally sensitive matters that are brought to our attention through CPF and the CPF department.
Yep, and I did want to add that I don't think Kara's here anymore, but I just wanted to say 205 North Seamecox, it's a very good example of where that originally came to CPF, but then the Housing Authority and CHF was alerted to this as being a possible better option for affordable housing. So right there is a good example of how we're cognizant of that, and thankfully with my background in planning, I also can kind of, I understand where community needs are, and obviously we still, if I see that there's a focal point that needs to be addressed possibly for housing rather than preservation, I'm happy to communicate that with the board and, with the housing director.
Yes, thank you, and we know you always would discuss that with us, so thank you for that. All right, well,
And it's worth noting too, sometimes the CPF advisory board will actually make a recommendation that the site might be more suitable for housing versus preservation.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely.
All right, well, if nobody else has any more comments or questions, I move to close this public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Madam Clerk, would you please read the notice for the 8th and final public hearing?
Public hearing number 8, to consider the acquisition of a portion of the lands of Sag Vine located at 775 Middle Line Highway in the hamlet of Watermill, New York.
Good afternoon again. Jackie Fenlon here, Community Preservation Fund Manager and Director. So this is a property that actually has been being considered by the CPF Advisory Board and the Town Board for quite some time. This is owned by Sag Vine Properties LLC, who are the purported owners of 775 Middle Line Highway, for a total property area of 5.2 acres. This property is also known as Suffolk County Tax Number 923-1-81.3. And this is a situation where there is an existing communications tower on the property. So we have been evaluating, existing leases, and the owner unfortunately is not able to take down the cell tower or to sell the property to us outright for the full purchase of the property. But in looking at this one, it does have open space objectives, and there are also trails to the north and to the west, and you can see the preservation pattern. I will point to the property, which is posted on the wall. But this would be to purchase a portion of the property, allowing the communications tower to remain, because there are existing leases that are still pending here, for $480,000. So this would preserve the perimeter of the property, reduce any potential future residential density, and it would also be covenanted that we can get basically first dibs on the individual property that would be left alone, so that we can complete the preservation goal in this area.
I believe you can actually take the wireless bike with you.
I can take. Ooh, which one's wireless?
The little
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's attached. Never mind.
It's
I lied.
Velcroed. It's Velcroed.
Sorry.
I was gonna do it. Okay, I'll point to it.
At the tower, we're not buying the property.
We're not buying the
the tower's
communication
on.
tower. So we are carving that out. So it will be subject to a subdivision.
Should I just give her Jim?
Just give her Jim's. Yeah.
Here.
All right. I'm going mobile. Oh, it's very loud.
Don't go so close.
So this is the property right here. So we are purchasing this diagonal line and hashed area here. There's no ability because of current leases to purchase this communications tower, but we have provided for area and work closely with the property owner so that there's still area for maintenance and parking and turnaround for vehicles. And it would also exclude the driveway area that's necessary to get to the communications tower. But I'll point to this now. This is actually an existing trail. And there's also historic trails that actually meander through the property and also to the east, which we would now be able to hook up to. And then the Pomnock Path is in the unimproved portion of Middle Line Highway just to the south. So this gives us other potential options for trail preservation. The property did have previous disturbance, although all of that disturbance has ceased, and this will be allowed to revert back to native vegetation. So again, this is $480,000 for the purchase of 4.6 acres. And again, this will eliminate residential density here in the future and will also covenant the remaining portion of the property so it can only be used for communication facilities to make sure in the future that somebody doesn't carve this out and essentially get a small housing lot here. So essentially this is purchasing the residential density from the property.
Thank you.
This, in the heading, it says Watermill, but in the body, it says Noyak.
Oh.
So just in the resolution, when we
Thank
put
you.
that on.
Yeah, I'll correct that. Apologies.
Are we doing watermill? It's water. It's
Watermill.
watermill, correct?
It's Watermill.
Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. In the body, it says Noyak.
It's close.
All right, we don't have any
Close.
cards on this one, but Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom for the 8th public hearing? Thank you. All right, does anyone else have any other questions for Jackie?
Nope, just for, after we close the hearing, I have a question for
Okay, then I move to close this public hearing.
her. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just wanted to let people know, next week we're gonna have the first meeting about Belia.
Yes.
The architect.
That's correct. Yeah, we have now officially retained a consultant, and we are starting to work on Bel Air Cove. So our plan is to meet initially with Bill Pell to look at the property and consider park features. And then I hope to present to the Hampton Bays community and Hampton Bays CAC possibly 3 concept plans so that the public can have interaction and involvement.
Thank you.
Nice,
Long
thanks
time
for
coming.
taking the lead on that, Bill.
It's a long time coming. I know this board, I'm pretty sure this board will never make a mistake like the prior administration did on.
Let's try not to.
No.
You just set us up.
Well, we're excited to begin that project and bring conceptual plans to the community.
This board is very cautious what we do.
We know we have eyes on us.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Yes,
The
Dan.
silent
thank
other
you.
half.
Yes. All right, well, that brings us to the public portion. So I do have some cards here. First one is Adrian Woodduck. Hi, there you are. Is it Woodduck?
Yeah.
Woodduck. Woodduck.
Good afternoon, Adrian Woodduck. I just want to say that I live in Flanders and I am the new chair of the beach committee, and our president is going to address our issue. But I just want to say that as a year-long member of the Sustainability Committee, and being in the Citizens Climate Lobby, which is a national organization, I've worked out here for a couple of very prominent landscaping firms, and it really warms my heart to hear people talking about inclusion and things that are taking a beating in our national government now. People caring about oak trees. Our neighborhood, Flanders, is full of oak trees. And I don't know if you know who Doug Tallamy is, but he's this country's greatest horticulturalist. And oak trees are the most important living thing that in vegetation to the diversity of our natural world. And we, as part of the natural world, I have to speak for myself. We've been very greedy and very selfish and done terrible things to this world. And at this time in particular, we really need to come together like this and care about each other, regardless of what side of what aisle we sit on. And I just thank you all for allowing us to have a voice. And the fire situation was fabulous. I was there before the firemen, and it was very exciting to see how well that was handled. I then headed to Manhattan, and I was halfway there, and there were still emergency vehicles coming from everywhere to help us. Mm-hmm. And at times like this, that's made me cry.
Heartwarming. We have to all work together. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you, Adrian.
Gail Lombardi. Come on back up, Gail.
I get my money's worth.
You do.
Down here, let me tell you. Okay, yes, I did want to bring up the fires. Neil and I were out and about, so thank you. Supervisor Moore, I saw you on TV, Ryan Murphy. But I always have to bring up, Michael and Councilperson Iacilli and Supervisor Moore. You were at January's meeting, and you remember that a town board, a civic member who was a New York City police officer actually brought it up. So I think it's important now that we actually have seen the damage that can be caused, that the town board take the lead on working with all the agencies now to protect what we have. Hampton Bays is very congested, and he talked about the site where Bess is and the dead trees, the form where they, all that. So that being said, the next thing is the hotel motel situation. We have these fake narratives going. We don't need hotels. We do need hotels. Long Island Business News says we need hotels. Here we say we got to get rid of hotels. we need to really figure out what we're supposed to be doing with hotels and motels. When Stan Glinka was town council person, he had run an incentive program, and they rehabbed a beautiful hotel in west of East Diana. So, the Easterner, yes, Councilperson McNamara is correct, but it's because we don't trust the government. I mean, most of us don't trust the town to do something with, put up a good motel, and then the next thing is they're going to allow it to be a homeless shelter. You know what I mean? That's what, again, we have more faith in you, but we're coming off of, years of bad government. Bel Air is a typical example. We didn't trust, you wasted $1 million buying that property. And so now I go back to the seed money. I'm shocked. You're taking town money and providing seed money to a project that, may or may not, probably will be successful, those 4 projects, but maybe not. Maybe they won't pass some secret review. And that's town money, seed money, that's used to raise other money, and you don't know all of the, the restraints that are going on with that other money. I'm assuming the committee does, and that's why they guaranteed it. So I personally need to spend more time on that. But the other reason that I'm here is that, is this another best situation where, we had, and I know Cindy, Councilwoman McNamara was a champion for this, so I thank her. Jay's World, he opted out, he didn't opt out of the cannabis zoning, all the villages did. Hampton Bays wasn't supposed to be, the rat test, and we are the rat test now because the Norfolk Bank now is considering a cannabis site. It's before the planning board, the old Norfolk Bank, the dilapidated building next to the Carvel. And Supervisor Moore, about last year when you were at the beautification, it had come up. And so now, again, it's a best situation where you had, Jay making a bad decision, then Cindy having to bob and weave with Rick Martell trying to get reasonable zoning so that it wasn't in village business, it wasn't next door to a school, and on top of it, you still had to, and Councilman McNamara, correct me if I'm wrong, you still had to go along, it was no longer home rule, you had a situation where you had to abide by the state. So again, I go back to those grants with the housing, are we going to be in the same situation? So I've gotten phone calls personally about the situation because it is very close, and I'm saying this to you because I know it's before the planning board and I know it's a wall, but you guys are responsible for the zoning, you have the contact with the state. And this poor developer is doing what he thinks he's allowed to do. It's very close to the St. Rosalie's, which has a preschool. And so, it's a situation now, and also the town has extended the sidewalks from the middle school to the high school to walk to town. And Neil and I are so gratified. Sometimes when we're walking in town, we see all the kids after an event, they're Francesca's, so now they could go get their ice cream and have contact high from the cannabis.
30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. So I for whatever you guys can do at this juncture to look into see if the zoning for the cannabis is really appropriate. And one other point I want to make is specifically in Hampton Bays, we go from village business at the end of King Cullen to highway business. We're not County Road 39. And the businesses along that strip are really more village business type businesses. You could walk there, you could walk to Carvel. So I appreciate if you can see if there's something that could be done to potentially look at changing the zoning, or maybe the application, working with the planning board to maybe this particular application may not be appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just speak to that briefly. Where we're at right now with that is, they didn't opt out, so we came up with, as you said, the zoning that we felt was the most palatable at the time. We fought against village business because we felt like the villages had opted out. The hamlets weren't allowed to do so, so therefore I didn't feel it was appropriate or fair to put it in village business, which we didn't. Where we're at right now at the state is the state, I don't believe, had enough municipalities opt in for better. I mean, we never really did anything. It was kind of like by default, which I think it was engineered that way. But there's not enough municipalities participating in the cannabis program to where they are not getting the numbers of dispensaries to support the state, the production of cannabis. Therefore, the state is now, you've seen it, they've said okay to farmers markets. They have put up a conversation about taking the zoning between, or the distance between dispensaries and halving it, which, we have fought, we've written letters. Hugs has been on top of this. They keep an eye on this very carefully, as does our Deputy Attorney Kathleen Murray. So we're really at this point trying to hold them in check on what we were given and not allow them to overrule us to any extent, because if they if they half the distance, if they, allow more places as of right to do these things, I believe they've already decided that distance, when you were talking about the preschool, I believe their distance is now, they're saying it's door to door on the same street. So if you're around the corner, if your door's around the corner, it doesn't matter. So these are all things that we are keeping an eye on. We are continually, reaching out to OCM to make sure that we have a voice and our concerns are at least brought up with them. So that's really where we're at that point, hoping that the state doesn't, overstep their bounds even more where this is concerned, because we opted into something that they've changed drastically since we didn't opt out. So,
And she's very correct. And we also were talking to Jim about this the other day. Since this state has changed it so many times, why can't we opt out now? Cannabis. And
do
you
we
said
want
you
to,
were
do we
gonna-
want to,
You said you were going to look into it eventually.
The state would have to change their law in order
Yeah.
to allow us to now subsequently opt out, but it doesn't mean that they wouldn't if we lobby them. I know there's some community members in various hamlets that have asked that. So Jim's looking into it for us.
You can look into it. I mean, Kathleen, fortunately we have her back now, and she's been very involved in this right from the start, even before, in the early planning stages, working with OCM. And
really trying to hold the line and hold them in check on what they're
right.
permitting, and so.
Yeah, there's been issues with the rollout of this for years, right? Everybody understands that.
Yeah. All right, so to be continued. Thanks for bringing it up, Cal. Ray D'Angelo.
I have a lot of stuff here. I'm going to go over 3 minutes, but it's all different things.
Yeah, you
I
have to
know.
stay to the 3 minutes. Talk fast.
Okay, it's, first thing is, you're gonna have the Water Commissioners meeting in Hampton Bays. And the Hampton Bays, the senior center is not Zoom ready. I was wondering if you've done anything with that to make it Zoom qualified so we can have the Zoom meeting, which is, I think, is.
Sure, we have to have that. We'll have that feature
Well, I
ready.
don't think I kept asking them, I asked them last week and they told me it wasn't Zoom. You haven't done any
Not
work
yet,
yet?
but they assured us it'll be ready by May.
Okay, that's taken care of, all right.
Check.
All right, the other thing is at our last senior, at the last civic meeting, one of our members, residents, talked about the fire load in the woods that we have here, and it's primarily from the pine bark beetle, and it's perch pines, and you gotta understand, like, all pine trees, especially, the perch pine, they're full of clear, so it's like oil in the trunks of these trees. So when they get hot enough, they explode. I mean, these fires are tremendous. So he brought it up, and now the DEC has a program where they want, when they chop these trees down, to let them stay where they go down because of the pine bark beetles. So I don't know if that has to be revisited, and maybe these things collected somehow and have a controlled burn or something. I don't know, but these are very, very tough and dangerous fires to fight.
I do have a meeting with the Pine Barrens Commission next week,
Yeah,
so
I
I'm
mean,
gonna
that's
ask them about that.
I told them at the meeting, because they were really upset. I said, well, this is done intentionally. There's a method to their madness. Okay. Well, then the last thing is, I going to speak about the 93 East Montauk Highway. That's the building that the old North Fork Bank, that they want to convert to a cannabis situation. It's right next to Carvel. And I can speak now as a grandfather. I take my grandchildren there in the summer every night. So do, I guess, most grandparents and parents. I mean, the community, as more and more people realize about, come aware of this thing, is overwhelmingly against this location. The other problem is the church, St. Rosalie's Church, which I attend. I'm a member of the Holy Name Society. It's the whole campus. They have preschool. They have religious instructions. They have a drug intervention program there. And if you look at the whole campus, it's within very close. It's less than 300 feet from this location. If you have to go all the way to the building, it's a little bit over 500 feet. But I just spoke to the pastor this morning, and he's made this point, and I'll make it, that it's the whole campus. You know, these kids, I was there yesterday, and we have all these little children walking around going to religious instructions. It's a terrible sight. And the debate is not whether people should smoke or not. That's not the debate. It's the location of this facility. And whatever, I know it's in front of the planning board, which I will appear in front of and send a letter to, but I'd want to make you guys aware of this situation. It's terrible. Okay, and you know, just to go back to, I mean, I'd like to go backwards, but you know, half the town is excluded from this because the villages were excluded. You had the good choice to opt out at West.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't excluded, but we all had the opportunity.
You
to
opted
make
out,
decision.
but Jay opted us in. You know, and you know, it's really inappropriate on his part. He was the supervisor of the whole town. So half the town he's going to subject this to us, and the half weren't. And of course, Hampton Bays is under the gun here again. So it is very disheartening to us. It is very upsetting. Okay, now, the other thing about these facilities, and I'm going for my friends in the city, because I am friends with a lot of police officers and everything, they're very, that 8 or 9 times more likely to be held up because they're cash businesses. They can't use credit cards. So there's a security issue with this. Okay, now, and the other thing I just want to give a quick comment about the Westwood. I just wanted to, I continue to support the lawsuit. I think it's necessary. Hopefully that the nation will come and open a dialogue with you guys. Right now, without the lawsuit, I don't think there's any push from any leverage on them to come to the table, and they have to. They need us. We need them. I mean, we need to discuss this. And without the lawsuit, it's not going to happen. I can see it's not going to happen. So again, I urge you to maintain the lawsuit so we can get at least a dialogue going on this. And that is it. I want to thank you very much for your time. Bill, happy birthday again.
You right?
Thank you,
You're not
Ray.
as old as I am, though. Thank you.
I'm right behind you.
And just to let you know, there was a hearing yesterday there was an oral arguments on the motion for a preliminary injunction, and the judge told us that she was going to have a decision by the end of the week.
How about the monuments?
State-
How about the monuments, which are now,
States.
you know, they're politicizing the monuments, going after supporting
That's-
one candidate, which I think is totally inappropriate. And they say that they,
Well, I mean,
and
that's,
how
we-
supposed
you
to
know.
be an injunction on that for that?
well, there is, but that's up to New York State to enforce that. We can't enforce that. Why are you putting him back at the
Because I
podium?
can't- because
Well,
people
to me,
can't
I
even
just,
talk.
you know, I'm just going to say that, you know, we had at the debate, we had the nation there, we allowed them to speak, and, you know, we were happy that they came. We want to be fair, but it seems like, you know, they talk with, you know, two different sides of their mouths with this thing. You know, first they you know, they don't want to talk to us and everything, but they want to get involved in the political campaign, which I think is kind of inappropriate. That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
All right, Lorraine Pacelio. At least you're not last like last time.
Good afternoon again. Lorraine Facelio, I'm the president of the Bayview Pines Civic and Taxpayers Association, Inc., and also a member of the Beach Committee. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. I know I send emails and I know you guys must get bombarded with emails, and that's why I just want to formally put this on the record and just to make sure that at least it's read before you all at least once. So our residents are patiently waiting for an update on the project that was approved for funding in December, but was placed on hold as a result of our community meeting on January 24th. And Supervisor Moore, we thank you for intervening on our behalf, but your last communication on February 10th was that you spoke to Highway Superintendent McCardle and that the engineer would be making changes. And hopefully we would have something in the next couple of weeks. But it's been 4 weeks and we have heard nothing. And yes, Mr. Ortez also emailed us telling us he would look into it on your behalf, but we are also waiting on him.
And then I did write back to you again,
Just telling me that it's the same thing.
that
There's
it's
no
not going to
status.
be the trustees that are handling it, that there was some miscommunications and that highway is it's the highways project and that they were going to let the engineer that they hired make some slight adjustments to the plan and then present it to us. So I don't think we've gotten those back yet from the engineer.
Okay, well, this is something that's been going on for many, many years. And Mr. McCardle was very uncooperative, I would say, in regard to attending our meeting. He had promised us that he would attend our meeting. He made us meet and prepare questions for him to appear because he said he would refuse to take questions from the open audience. We prepared these questions,
Then I think
and then he never showed
was
up.
informed that you had asked the trustees to come, and
No.
I think he thought,
That's
if
not
they're
true.
dealing with it, I don't need to.
No, that wasn't true. But at any rate, he sent us an email and said, don't bother copying me anymore because you turned this over to the trustees. And then that's when you stepped in. But the trustees have pretty much stepped aside because they said that this is a highway department project and for the water quality project also. But as far as I know, nobody in the town is pushing it forward, and highway is not going to contact us. He told us not to contact him, so we're at
It's just,
a
it's with the
crossroads.
engineer, when they became aware that the project was needed, they sent it to the engineer, got the plans done. We had a meeting about it, you were there, and there were some discussions, and then they determined that they would go back to the engineer and ask for some additional drainage and some softening of the walkway, and that's what we're waiting for. I mean, unless someone else is aware that more plans came in.
Not yet.
I think,
We can check on it.
the engineers.
If somebody could check, that's what we need. We need somebody to push this forward. The community next to us has 1/100th of a problem of flooding on the end of their roadway, and somehow they've been able to get approved a $700,000 project for their road that ends at their private beach. But we can't get this small project even off the ground. So maybe whoever.
We had our approval ready, but then the community had some concerns, so now it's gone back to the drawing board for some changes.
Correct.
But just because the dollar amount is different on the two roads are distinct and have their own distinct
Well,
issues.
We would like to know what those distinct differences are, because we have been waiting many, many decades to have some improvement to our road. We finally get somewhere, and then it was said that it wasn't going to work, not because of, anything that the highway or that the engineer noted. It was something that the community brought to their attention. And now they're working on it again without community involvement, and that's what makes us concerned. And then yet, the community next to us, they get their project through, and we don't know how they got their project through. I don't know who they spoke to or who they know.
I think the difference is they weren't involved and Highway just went in and did the project.
Yeah, nobody came and objected to the plan.
Okay, so, well, then they must have had a better plan. Obviously, it's $700,000 versus ours. We objected to it because nobody came to us to discuss it. If they must have, it says, I pulled out their applications, and it says they had support from their community, so they must have had community outreach, but nobody did any outreach in our community. I don't know why we're singled out. I don't understand what we could do.
The community support that they had was the community had reached out and said this was a problem and they were addressing the problem.
Okay.
After they said that it was a problem, I don't think they were involved at all in the process going forward of actually designing it and fixing it.
Okay, well, then maybe somebody should look at that project, because we brought to their attention that the project did not take into account handicap access. I don't know if they have to do that since their beach is private, whether or not that was just one thing that we brought to the engineer's attention, that it needs to be handicap access, and the trustees brought a few important aspects of the project. Also saying that, you know, the railings that were set up too high would impair endangered species flying through. They would get caught on the railings or something like that. So I think that it is more encompassing than just, you know, okay, yeah, we need this, and then it was done. We did the same thing, but our project was a lot different, and now we're not getting any response from the town. The engineers don't know who the hell we are. Nobody ever reached out to us, to our community, for input, and I need help. We need help. That's what I'm here for, to ask for help and to please acknowledge our emails or respond to us, come to our meetings. And also, I just want to note that our Crohan Center also needs to be Zoom enabled. We used to have board meetings there. You guys used to come down before Zoom came about. And there's no reason why you cannot have a meeting down in our community so you know where we live. We're a large community, not just Bayview Pines. You know, we are Flanders, Riverside, and Northampton. And I just want to thank you, Mr. Pell, also for supporting or not supporting the best development that's going to take place next to the Phillips Avenue School, and we hope that that project also is scrutinized very carefully. Thank you.
We know about Flanders, and a lot of us often go to the Franca meetings, so we are familiar with it, and we're going to be outfitting the Hampton Bays Senior Center with the Zoom features, and I don't know why we couldn't do that in Flanders as well, but we're, you know, one step at a time.
Okay. Yeah, we need the same thing, because we like to have our meetings on Zoom also, but it was very hard at the January 24th meeting. A lot of our members couldn't participate the way that they wanted to, and we really need that assistance, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One of the,
Well, go ahead, make it fast.
you can take it out, Ray's minute next time.
Adrian Woodduck, Dale Avenue in Flanders. I live just off Long Neck Boulevard. And I was at the meeting where the money was approved for this project and where something was presented. And I wasn't at that meeting for that particular reason, but when I saw what was presented, I thought, it doesn't make any sense. Part of the problem is that when there are storms, and depending on which way the wind is blowing, the sand and the Reeves Bay water are blown onto the road. This, last time I was there, when there was, like, it rained overnight for a couple of days, was over 100 feet up the road, not just water, but the sand. And to build a bioswale right in front of where that happens, the bioswale is going to drown. So the whole thing made no sense to me. And the trustee's property is right next to the road. It wouldn't require any, well, it would require hopefully some drainage on the road. But if the bioswale was just put on the beach on the trustee's property right next to the road, we wouldn't have to have a boardwalk. We wouldn't have to be concerned about, you know, people going across. I mean, it's just, the plan makes no sense. And if they're going to come back with, I don't know what's meant by softening the walk, that ain't going to cut it. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, we do have our engineers, you know, we have to rely on them, you know. So we'll speak with them again. We'll speak with Highway. Okay, Lynn Murcott.
Good afternoon, and happy birthday, Bill. Where's the party and when?
There's some more cake down there.
Oh, I was only kidding.
No, that is enough for anyone.
Thank you. I just wanted to say about Ray's comment, I thought the board was going to look to not have cannabis shops in Hampton Bays or anywhere else because we'll be competing with the nation. And I thought that was a good idea because, let's face it, anybody in Hampton Bays can go to the nation and get whatever they want. And I know the place in Riverhead that, I don't know, got permission, that massive place, their prices are so expensive that Gail told me. Yes, yes, we're born in the 60s. Yes, everyone throws me under the bus. Anyway, so I would just like to state that I thought that was an excellent idea because it solves two problems. They need money, and we, and I, like I said, if we go to Hampton, if we want, we've got the reservation right there. So as far as that's concerned, and that, might be a point to bring up with any laws that they're trying to force on us. The third thing, because Bill's birthday was first. The third thing is the Hampton Bays Diner. I hear people talking about trees and everything else. I just got back from vacation. I passed it and I almost died. I mean, why did they have to take down? I know it's an eyesore, the diner, but why did they have to take down all the trees? I mean, they make it so much worse. There's no reason why one tree can be left here and one there. They just seem to clear cut everything in Hampton Bays. I don't know if that happens in other towns, but I know on Newtown Road, I know there's a development there that was clear cut many years ago. I wasn't allowed to take down a tree on my property. Not that I wanted to, but I just wasn't allowed. But there are so many, and even there's two developments on Newtown Road where they had to take down every tree, and it was not necessary. So thank you for hearing me, and
We're working on a code for that now, right now, to,
good. Okay.
Restrict clear
Okay.
cutting.
Well, thank you very much, and
Especially involved with that.
And I actually
Okay.
did look at that plan, and it went through site plan with the planning board, and it's a commercial lot, and so there's no clearing restrictions there. And I believe they're shifting the buildings, there's two buildings, back into that side where the trees were to have enough parking, because by law, they have to have so much parking for each one of those buildings, that to get their parking allotment, I think they just had to clear that whole property to get it to the commercial scale that.
now are you speaking of the diner, or are you speaking of
The
the
diner.
ones on? Oh,
The diner.
okay.
And I heard that we're ready to issue the demolition permit, but that we're waiting for the state, the DOT, they have to issue permission as well. That's what
And it's going to be another medical building, right?
Two.
one of them. I don't know. Oh, yeah, I don't know.
Well,
if the
there's two
second
buildings.
one-
I
there's
know
two
one
buildings
is,
going in?
Yeah, but they're set back. And I know the planning board made them put in an extensive landscape to, when you drive in, you don't, it's not the building on the road that they're set back, and there's, landscaping.
I'll tell you, the one thing that's nice is all my doctors in Southampton are moving to Hampton Bays because they can't take the traffic in the morning. Yes.
All right.
meeting going to be there?
Thank you, Lynn. Gail Murcott.
Gail Marcotte, Hampton Bays. Bill, happy birthday.
And it was your sister who knows the prices.
Yes. She's a bad influence, not me. You know that. But in any case, I first of all would like to thank the town board for two things. One, your response for those wildfires. We were here in 95, and let me tell you, we were petrified, particularly as they were headed southeast towards Quogue. Hampton Bays is next, and you know how the woods are in Hampton Bays, and I understand from the Wildlife Center that the birds have to eat the beetles. That's the only thing supposedly that gets rid of them. But in the meantime, we're looking at the woods and we're looking at all of that and saying, if this goes, Hampton, where we are will definitely be gone. So thank you for your response to that. And I want to publicly thank the first responders because they just did a terrific job of putting this out. Every department involved. I kept watching it on the news to see what was happening, and just everybody was there, saw you, and thank you for that. Now, the second thing is, I would like to thank you again. I know Ray did too, but for the litigation on the Westwoods property. I'm afraid that a new mixture of the board might not think that's a good idea, and I'm not going to say anything more than that, but as far as that goes. But we were so excited. We came back Monday, and we were so excited to hear newspapers, the radio and everything, that there was a pause on Westwoods. And then when we looked into it, the pause was on burying the gas tanks. So we're like, okay, they can't do anything, they can't operate, but they don't need to operate with the gas tanks now anyway. I should say the submarines, because that's what they are. But in any case, when we looked at the drone pictures that a neighbor had taken, the gas tanks are already buried. So what's the pause? And I want to know, I saw the letter that you guys signed for the pause with them. Maybe you can tell me or not tell me what happened there. Because it says it's a pause, and all of a sudden you look and they're already buried.
So we found out yesterday that the judge actually didn't sign that order. She wanted some clarification on a few things. And as they explained to her, they felt that the covering of the tanks with soil, that's not what they meant. They meant that they wouldn't cover them with concrete and asphalt.
Yeah. And so she wrote that into the order yesterday, but she said she'll have a decision by the end of this week on the preliminary injunction.
Okay, that'll be nice to hear, hopefully, and then I'm just not sure how that's going to be enforced. Is there a way to enforce that if the judge says so? Because in our nation, it doesn't seem to be happening.
We'll have to see how her order's written or what she decides, because we don't even.
But if she does, is there a way? Because you can't enforce your stop work order, or didn't, whatever. So is there a way to enforce a judge's decision?
What do you think, Jim?
Well, yeah, I mean,
I don't
Depends on
honestly,
the-
I don't know that if there's a court order, I don't know that
could bring it to-
the construction company will continue working because they're a national company, and I don't think they want to go against a judge's order. That's just my.
probably more likely to have that.
Okay, well, that would be good news, because, again, all we want is we want everything stopped until it's decided what exactly can be done there.
You could bring a contempt of court action is what you do. If
Sorry?
there's a violation of a court order, then you bring a contempt of court action, and then, but you are still dealing with a federally recognized tribe, so you do have that issue. But as Councilperson McNamara mentioned, we may be better off enforcing against the contractor.
Yeah.
We might have better luck with them, but we'll see. We don't know what the decision we had. There was a very intensive hearing yesterday, and so we'll know more hopefully by the end of this week.
Okay, and again, thank you for staying with that, because, to the community, it's very important. I mean, if those things were filled with gas and those wildfires hit that fuel that's already there for them because of the pine barren beetle, what would happen. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the attorneys were very professional on both sides yesterday, and the judge said, she commented on how impressed she was with the papers that were submitted, and she also said that, I just lost my train of thought.
Was that televised?
No,
No.
It was,
So we can't
No, and
see
she
it.
did have concerns for the community.
Yeah.
So she understood our concerns.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. She was very well versed in what was happening. She clearly read all the papers and was conversant in the issues.
May I just ask a question?
You can
Was
with
the
another
casino mentioned or part of that at all? Because Newtown Road's going to go right to that casino. I mean, convention center, whatever,
No,
casino.
we're just focused on
Any
the
mention
travel
of
plaza.
that, or no? Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to add that you look very nice on the billboard. Everybody looked great.
Like Councilman Pell said, at least we're smiling.
Yep, that's right. I pass it every day, and
Yeah.
I think it's very nice.
You look nice on Channel 12, too.
All right, Carol McCarville.
Carolyn Carville, Hampton Bays. So I just want to bring to your attention, I'm talking about the proposed cannabis store. Bring to your attention the lack of other New York laws that are going to cause a problem with this. So I think it's not a good idea to have the store at this time. It's not just a zoning issue, it's a safety issue, it's a driving issue, it's a law enforcement issue. Here's just some of the thoughts. New York law allows, and I must say, I just yesterday participated in a statewide lawyers conference on the selling of cannabis, so this is fresh on my brain. New York law presently allows you to use cannabis in the store. So someone can come in, use cannabis in the store, go out, get in their car, and continue driving through the town of Southampton. There's no requirements about not being able to serve it, and that presents a problem because no one is controlling how much a customer could use. That problem is further compounded by the fact that the marijuana sellers, the store owners, under New York law have no liability for selling it. The analogy, the way to look at this is to compare it to the New York alcohol sale laws. If you sell alcohol or serve it at a bar or a restaurant, there is New York laws that says that you have to make sure that you're not serving it to someone who's already drunk. And if you do, and if they get into an accident, then you, the seller of the alcohol, is liable for the injuries that their intoxication caused. So that creates a responsibility on the seller to be more careful about to whom they're selling and what condition the purchaser is in. But with the cannabis, there's no regulations, there's no New York law placing any responsibility on the store owners, the people selling the cannabis. I think this is probably because cannabis sale is so new that the law was enacted and no one has yet thought through how to control or regulate the consequences of this. So no one is liable. You could go in and buy it and use it, and you could look as stoned as possible.
30 seconds.
No one is liable. The second problem is that there's no way to enforce. There's going to be more people driving around with cannabis in them, and there's no law enforcement measure that has been developed to test for this. Presently, the Southampton Police Department told me that they have designated some officers to give blood tests to people suspected of using drugs.
3 minutes.
I spoke to Southampton Hospital, the phlebotomist there, who think this is the worst idea in the world to have the police giving blood tests. So there has not been put in place any law enforcement testing enforcement component to address the fact that we're selling marijuana to people who get in their cars and drive away. Another consideration is how are you going to decide the tax? My understanding is that in Southampton town, commercial tax is based in part on the profits that the business makes. And since cannabis stores have all cash, no way to know their business income, how are they going to be assessed
4 minutes.
tax?
You're over time.
Well, those are just, conversations we have to have about the taxing
Well, no, we
and
need
what
more of
the
the
funds are gonna be
conversation.
used for.
We need, I'm suggesting, you need policies in place, and New York State needs to have laws in place before we start promoting marijuana by having a store. I guess I'm done.
Thank you. Okay, the last speaker is Linda Holliday.
Hi, Linda Holliday, Hampton Bays, first-time caller. I'm here because I got involved in this Westwoods project because some of my neighbors are deeply affected. I'm a little bit affected, and made me fall in love with Hampton Bays even more. Many of us have donated our own money to support some kinds of process to protect the rights of not just us, but the Peconic Bay and all of the other, quality of life issues that will affect everyone in Hampton Bays. And Hampton Bays, is the life support system for the South Fork. We educate all the kids. The workers come from our great schools. We have affordable, wonderful housing and great parents. And all of that is under siege if this gas station and casino destroy the texture of our community and draw all of our resources from us. So I too support this legislation. I know it's in process and you guys are working hard, and I'm grateful for that. But I also look at this and wonder, why don't we have more vision and imagination? Why aren't we trying to help the Shinnecock do this? With all the havoc that this is going to wreak, and it's not just the gas station and the casino, it's the crime, it's the drugs, it's everything else that it will bring. Why can't we use the same or less money, more imagination, bump out real estate developers who come in with PowerPoint decks and show you how you can make $10 million a year without lifting a finger, and propose some alternatives that are healthier, more consistent with the Indians' value system as I understand it, and grow our entire neighborhood in the South Fork? Where does that kind of imagination kick in? And I do believe that the tribe has come to these meetings not necessarily with honesty and integrity. They do say one thing and do the next. I showed my husband this morning this kind of overhead shot, and these people's backyards, like, they can not even put their shoes on and go buy drugs and come home. There's no setback. It's horrible. And it looks like a bomb zone from the sky. And it's just going forward when we talk about, I love oak trees. I have one. I'm a big nature fan, and I'm a sustainability person. But the amount of carnage that's being created already and being proposed is so far greater than the kinds of things we're talking about, basements and no basements,
30 seconds.
I don't have any more. That was it. And thank you. I know it's like, I went lobbying for the first time this year in Albany. It was wonderful. I've been on a jury duty. It was wonderful. And coming here, it's great to see government actually working. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
You did a good job.
I just wanted to say one more thing. I know many of us talked about what we're appreciative of in terms of all of our first responders and everybody who came out and helped us over the weekend during the wildfire. I forgot to mention during when I was speaking, one other group of folks who really helped the public, and that's the press. 2070 in particular. Mike Wright is here in the audience, and just want to applaud all of your efforts and 2070's efforts for keeping the public updated on everything that was going on. So, thank you.
All right. Let's see. That's all the cards I have. Kevin, is there anyone on Zoom for public portion?
No one on Zoom.
Okay, well, there being no further comments, I move to close public portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town board resolution.
That's it. Move ahead with the resolutions. Good to see everyone.
Yes.
in favor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Town board resolution 2025-352. Amendment
Can you wait? Yeah, we're in the middle of the proceedings. Sorry.
Amendment to the town board resolution number 2025-214 to include reverse transcription for the Justice Court stairwell.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 353 of 2025, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell. Authorize amendment to reallocate funding for trustees 2021 Mill Pond Water Quality Grant to include the stocking of bluegill in Mill Pond.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-354 to authorize the purchase of body armor, law enforcement from New York State OGS contracts with various contractors.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-355 to authorize the purchase of firearms, ammunition, and less lethal products from various contractors using the New York State OGS contracts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 356 of 2025 to authorize the purchase of Heel garbage truck model PT 1000 from Vaso Systems Inc. using Sourcewell contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 357 of 2025, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, authorizing the purchase of playground, play equipment, and site amenities from American Recreational Products, Inc., BCI Burke Company, LLC, and Raymond Michael Limited using Town of Islip contracts.
Second.
All in favor? Town Board Resolution 2025-358 to authorize the purchase of steel and aluminum from Suffolk County contract with Rapid Steel Supply Corp.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-359 to authorize purchases from the Ergonomic Group using Omnia Partners contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-360 to authorize purchases of maintenance, repair, and install for radios and miscellaneous equipment for emergency vehicles using the Rockland County contract.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-361 to authorize the supervisor to execute a 2025 cooperative agreement with neighboring villages for the town to provide shared computer services.
Second.
All in favor?
Town Board Resolution 362 of 2025, co-sponsored with the entire board, authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with J. Pontieri PE DPC to provide professional engineering service in connection with the expansion of the existing softball field at Iron Point Park in Flanders.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-363, authorize supervisor to sign contract with L.K. McLean, Associate Engineer and Survey DPC, provide engineer and survey associated with design of the intersection improvement of Noyak at Noyak Long Beach Road.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-364, co-sponsored by Councilmember Iacilli, to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Local TV, Inc. in order to simulcast programming on Sun 20 TV, the cable television public access channel.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town
Board Resolution 365 of 2025, authorize supervisor to sign an agreement with the University at Buffalo, the State University of New York, for the placement of college interns.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-366, to authorize the supervisor to sign any and all documents with Notice Technologies, Inc. for alarm billing, invoicing, and payment software.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-367, co-sponsored by Councilmember Iacilli, to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract extension with the Hampton Hopper LLC for shuttle services associated with the South Fork Commuter Connection.
Second, but Bill, you have to unmute your mic.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Mike.
You're on.
Jim just told me to tell you.
Thanks, Jim.
Kevin,
Kevin.
don't need it though.
Hey, it's teamwork.
Telephone.
Town
So we
Board
get the right
Resolution
thing.
2025-368, authorize supplement funding for the 2022 Lake Agawam South Park Improvement Project, Water WQIP project.
Second.
All in favor, and that's co-sponsored by the entire board.
Yes, it is.
Town Board Resolution,
Didn't vote. You said all in favor, I didn't hear anybody vote.
Oh,
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Town Board Resolution 2025-369, to authorize the supervisor to execute a no-cost extension of term of contract for the Riverside Sewer District Professional Service Agreement with Leonard Marchese, MBA, CPA.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-370, to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Def Sonder LLC to provide design improvements to the town boardroom broadcast system.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town
This
Board.
is very important too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to interrupt everything and say, this is the first time in many years I can hear people.
Yeah.
And people can hear us way in the back.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew, and Kevin, and Peter.
Yep.
And John.
Nice done, nicely done. Town Board Resolution 2025-371, to authorize the supervisor to execute any and all documents for the Tactical Targeted Grant Program from Homeland Security and Emergency Services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-372, to authorize the supervisor to sign any and all documents for the submission of a grant application to the New York State Fiscal Year 2022 Critical Infrastructure Grant Program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 2025-373, authorize supervisor to sign any and all documents regarding purchase of high side dump sweepers from Suffolk County Brakes Service using source fall contracts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 374 of 2025, co-sponsored with Supervisor Moore. Authorize the supervisor to sign any and all documents with Hatch to provide maintenance, parts, and labor for the Hampton Bays Water District.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-375, co-sponsored by Councilmember Pell, to authorize the supervisor to sign a no-cost contract extension for the 2022 awards of Community Preservation Fund 20% Water Quality Improvement Project Fund.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-376, to authorize the use of Eastern Suffolk BOCES Cooperative Bidding Program 2025-2026.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-377, award and authorize supervisor to sign contract for 2 Chevrolet pickup trucks with plows and accessory with Suffolk County Brake Service.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-378, to award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with AAAA Long Island Waste Oil for removal and recycling disposal of waste oil.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-379, to award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with S&M Tire Recycling, Inc. for scrap tire recycling services.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-380, award and authorize supervisor to execute a contract with Deca Construction, Inc. for Lake Agawam South Pocket improvements.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-381, recall and amend Resolution 2024-319, authorize supervisor to sign a sole source contract with Old Dominic Bush Company of Old Dominic Bush Company, OEM Parts.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 382 of 2025, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell. Recall and amend Town Board Resolution 2023-997, authorizing the supervisor to execute a contract with L.K. McLean Associates Engineering and Surveying, DPC, for professional services related to improvements at Red Creek Park, Hampton Bays.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 383 of 2025, rescind contract with Ben Douglas for mobile concessions at Flying Point Beach.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-384, to reject all bids for install and repair sidewalks to include curbing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-385, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, 2025 notice to bidders for activity vehicles.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-386, 2025 notice to bidders for requirement contracts for full depth reclaim.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-387, 2025 notice to bidder and requirement contracts for paving repair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-388, 2025 reject bid and second notice to bidder for Yacht Club Drive bulkhead replacement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's hope those come back quickly.
Yes.
Town Board Resolution 2025-389, to amend the 2024 budget for various departments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-390, co-sponsored by Councilmembers Pell and Iacilli, to amend the 2025 adopted budget for community housing projects.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-391, sponsored by the whole board, to amend the 2025 waste management fee schedule.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-392, co-sponsored by Councilmembers McNamara and Pell, to amend the 2025-2029 capital budget for Flanders Community Center Outdoor Improvements Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Madam Clerk, you could add me to that resolution. Thank you.
Town Board Resolution 2025-393 to amend the 2025-2029 capital budget for a garbage packer truck.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Town Board Resolution 2025-394 to authorize purchase order encumbrances 2024 to 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-395, co-sponsored by Councilman Pell, to appoint Water Quality Advisory Committee for 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-396, a continuation of legal services by Campolo, Middleton, and McCormick LLP as it relates to litigation filed against the town of Southampton involving River Rock Structured Capital LLC for 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-397, a continuation of legal services by Farrell Fritz, PC, as it relates to the matter of the Town of Riverhead et al. Versus the Town of Southampton et al. And the Riverside Sewer District Project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-398, continuation of legal services by Morgan, Lewis, and Bacchius LLP on behalf of the Town of Southampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Town Board Resolution 2025-399 to amend the 2025 Department of Land Management Zoning Board of Appeals fee schedule.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 400 of 2025, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli. Authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for the Friends of the Hampton Bays Library Spring Festival to be held on May 10th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-401, co-sponsored by Councilmember Iacilli, to authorize the Peconic Bay Region CPF tax refund pursuant to the first-time homebuyers exemption for Caroline Janis.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 402 of 2025, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli. Cost reimbursement waiver for the Remsenburg-Spionk Union Free School District Annual Memorial Day Parade on May 22nd, 2025, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m.
Second.
Town Board all in favor?
Aye.
You just need a second.
Town Board Resolution 2025-403 to appoint Amanda Restano to Town Investigator in Public Safety.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-404 to appoint Anthony Monzon Alvarado to Maintenance Mechanic 1 in the Parks Department.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-405 to appoint Brandon Drummond to Network and System Specialist 1 position from the Civil Service list.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-406 to appoint Michael Pace to Groundskeeper 1 in the Parks Department.
Second and co-sponsor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-407 to appoint Seth Farrell to Ordinance Enforcement Officer in Public Safety.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 408 of 2025, attendance at Homicide Investigators Course in College Point, New York.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 409 of 2025, attendance at Mechanical Breaching Operator and Instructor in Glassboro, New Jersey.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-410, authorize the town supervisor to sign a stipulation of agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Town Board Resolution 411 of 2025, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli, update town workplace violence prevention program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 2025-412, co-sponsored by the entire board, notice a public hearing to consider the acquisition of 112 Mill Pond Lane in the hamlet of Watermill, New York, and to amend the CPF project plan and the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's going to be on March 25th.
Great work.
Town Board Resolution 2025-413, notice a public hearing to consider the historic landmark designation of the site recognized as the Rayner Fish House, located at 4 Beaver Dam Road in West Hampton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That'll be April 8th. Town Board Resolution 2025-414, notice of public hearing to consider landmark designation of the structure recognized as the Diamond Dairy Barn and Studio located at 18 Flying Point Road in Watermill.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that's also April 8th.
Town Board Resolution 415 of 2025, accept a deed of dedication in connection with the map of old stables at Spion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution 416 of 2025, authorizing the use of CHF funds for the acquisition of the property located at 645 East Montauk Highway, Shinnecock Hills, New York, by the Town of Southampton Housing Authority to develop new senior housing units.
Second, and I'd like to co-sponsor Sunday.
Myself too.
Yes.
Whole board?
Thank you, everyone.
Stick together. Okay. Did I say all in favor? Well, I'm saying it now.
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
All right.
you.
Then we have the three walk-ons.
This is Town Board Resolution 49260, authorizing the attendance at the New York State YMCA Youth and Government Conference in Albany on March 21st to March 23rd, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You going up there?
No.
You can say hi to Carter John if you're up there.
Yeah, Peter Strecker's going. Yeah, I know I could go, but I think I'd be here.
All right. Town Board Resolution ID number 49282, which is the warrant number 5, capital number 5, CPF number 5, dated March 11th, 2025.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Town Board Resolution ID number 49258, which is a resolution adopting the amendment to the Southampton Town Code, Chapter 314, entitled Moratorium on Battery Energy Storage Systems, by amending Section 314.4 entitled Moratorium Period to extend the moratorium period for an additional 3 months.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks, everyone. No more business then. I move to close the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.